Thank you for tuning in to the live show. Yes, we are back. It is currently 11:14 p.m. Of course, today's date is the 8th of May, 2025. You know what time it is. It is another time for another episode. All right. As we all know, some of us do not know, but for the ones that know, the Trump administration has actually inked a deal, a trade deal with the UK. Okay. Now, a lot of people have been saying, well, prices are going to go up if trade deals are not done. Well, he started with the United Kingdom and it happened this morning. But before we go check out the details of that deal, I want us to go through what CNN is talking about when it comes to the conservatives. And they're saying Donald Trump is a socialist. All right. Listen to this.
Listen, I lived through a right-wing dictatorship in Nicaragua,
tell us more.
Somoza,
Yeah.
and I lived as a child through left-wing dictatorship, the socialists, the Sandinistas. What do? They like to ration things, right? So the things that are coming out of Trump's mouth sound like rationing for the American people. I agree with you. He's not a socialist. What he is a authoritarian, and what he is a corrupt hypocrite. Because at the same time that he's telling you that you can only give your children 5 pencils and 3 dolls, he is making billions of dollars. He and his family are making billions of dollars out of a crypto grift. His wife is getting paid tens of millions of dollars, $40 million by Amazon for a documentary based on the coffee book that she put out on her life. And so it's incredibly hypocritical for, these billionaires to be telling the American people who are having a hard time paying for their groceries that they should endure a little pain. It is cruel. It is like so nonchalant,
but
so
where
Marie
are all these arguments when Joe Biden's inflation was killing America?
So
this is what
did he ever tell people, go ahead, feel a little pain?
He didn't have to tell them when you went to the grocery store and your bill was $400 more than it was last week.
The reality is they still are feeling that pain, and they're going to continue to feel more. If you don't want to buy your daughter more than $3 or your son more than $3, don't. But you can buy them 10 because we live in America and we should have that choice. It's not the president's role to say your kids only need $3 or $10. That's the first point.
I think you said people weren't going to have money to buy the dolls.
Well, they aren't going to have money to pay the dolls. We aren't going to have the dolls. The dolls are going to be too expensive. It's going to be
Barbie prices just went
a compound effect because of what Donald Trump is doing. The second thing is you talked about the Dispatch being just some old Republican. That's your party. These people that are writing this are like people that probably voted for Donald Trump.
I like Jonah.
I like Jonah. Right? Jonah's one of our candidates.
If you don't like the Dispatch, fine. Okay, here's the National Review. Here's the National Review. The man who for decades has been a symbol of unapologetic American excess is now defending his tariff policies by making the case against abundance. Trump is now arguing that children are going to have to get used to having less.
As luck would have it, I came here from the Manhattan Institute Gala, and who was sitting right next to me at the table but some of the editors from National Review. And I said, I think I'm talking about you guys tonight. I said, let me ask you something. You guys disagree with Trump a lot, right? And they said, yes, our paper, we sometimes disagree with Trump. Do you have any buyer's remorse in voting and supporting Trump over Kamala Harris? And it was met with a roar of laughter, like, no, absolutely not. And they cited things like DEI and other things that they were appreciative of. We have a big tent party, and we can disagree. But I do not think that any one article or 2 articles saying Trump's a socialist should trigger.
I don't think Trump is a socialist either.
This is my point. This article is so ridiculous
Can I
put the headline on this on the title.
Let me ask the liberals at the table a question, because I'm actually very curious about this. Why are you all so opposed to the idea that maybe Trump actually might support socialist ideas? Is it because there are people who identify that way in your party?
No, because I think that there are people who on the left who would be aghast right now on the internet and everywhere else if you lump me in with the AOCs and Bernie Sanders of the world, and that's not it at all. I just think we're giving Donald Trump too much credit. And what I would also
I didn't think that calling Trump a socialist was necessarily giving him
no,
credit.
because it seems as if he's accidentally falling into some robust political policy.
Corey,
He's not.
This is what's not ringing true, though. Look at the automobile industry based on these tariffs. Do you know how many companies are now going to build their cars in America? Honda's expanding their plant. Volkswagen is expanding. Within 6 months.
Ford just said today that they're raising prices.
They're raising prices and laying people off.
But you know why? Because Ford builds some of their stuff in Mexico and in Canada. But the Europeans and the Japanese are coming to America to create jobs.
1 second. Just
Ford's losing Canadian jobs and Mexican jobs.
Two fundamental questions. You do realize that there's no such thing as a fully American-made vehicle because even the big three utilize pieces from Mexico and Canada. Therefore, the price is going up.
What about Tesla?
But what I want to...
Tesla is the number one. Why are you shaking your head? Tesla is the number one vehicle made with American parts.
Let me respond.
Honda is number two.
Okay, Arthur, let me respond to that. Tesla is more American made than those other cars, but even they have said the tariffs are going to hurt us.
But do you think the tariff is good policy? You too. That's the large question. Do you actually think
I don't think 145% on China is a good thing.
Do you think this willy-nilly tariff policy is good? Not the insults on the Dispatch or National Review and eating that rubber chicken at the gala tonight. Like, do you think
it was filet mignon, actually? It was lamb. It was lamb. It was lamb.
Really, the working class party here.
Come for the catering.
I think something.
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
The problem, so whether he's a socialist or not, I think is not a relevant question. But he does have authoritarian characteristics that I think are far more troublesome. The attacks on the media, the attacks on the arts, the unwillingness to accept election results. I mean, he's still there and he won't accept the election results from 2020. These are all things that Ortega does, that Maduro does, that the Castros did, the weaponizing of government against their opposition. Those are all things that dictators do. And so
Yet, this man was almost sent to jail by a liberal lawyer, prosecutor. They raided his home. Nobody said anything then. Now they're saying, well, he's a dictator. These are the characteristics of a dictator. You didn't tell Joe Biden that, though. Nobody told Joe Biden when they raided Donald Trump's home, when they tried to put him in prison, before he became the president of the United States. Now, he's the dictator.
Keep saying that he walks like a duck, he talks like a duck, and he looks like a duck. Is that the saying?
Yes, it is. I think
there you go.
One thing, to take it off of the term of socialism, one thing that I think that those two articles, because they're conservative outlets, are doing, and I said this actually before the election, I don't know when the Republican Party will actually have a split, but the direction is going. There are Republicans that find Trump's economic policies troubling, whether it's tariffs, and I think there are Democrats and progressives that also are finding the policies of the Democratic Party troubling. And what I think is actually happening in this moment is we are starting to actually be on the verge of this traditional two-party system that has happened in America because of some of the extremes on both sides that people are going to, and I don't think it's going to be progressives go more to the left and Republicans go. I think it's going to be a configuration of people from both parties that find themselves in the center and an independent verge of, because none of this is sustainable. And I think that's actually what this article is suggesting.
I think the reason you haven't seen that split is because Republicans, like a lot of other Americans, are incredibly afraid of Donald Trump and the hell that will rain on them. We actually heard Susan Collins. Not Collins. Murkowski. Lisa Murkowski.
I confuse them as well.
Lisa Murkowski say that just a few weeks ago. Look at what's happening to Tom Tillis, the senator, because he's saying he refuses to vote for Ed Martin.
But you understand, when people say they're afraid of Donald Trump, they're afraid of the electoral consequences of going against him. That is because the electoral results are fundamentally based on people's votes.
But the fear is...
People are, whether you like it or not, people in the Republican Party and many outside of the Republican Party are still supportive of Donald Trump.
It's a little deep.
But that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of voters. They're not afraid. You compared him to Maduro before.
I think you're missing it. I think you're missing it.
Electoral consequences.
I think you're missing it because I think that fear is slightly deeper. My grandmother used to have this saying that you can't fall off the floor, right?
Don't bring grandma into this.
As an 8-year-old, that didn't mean a whole lot to me. But as you get older, you begin to realize what that means. There are a lot of people in this country who feel put upon or oppressed, whether or not they're women or immigrants. I mean, there are people in this country who fear that when they walk out, they won't get access to the fundamental rights of due process that are due to everyone. It doesn't even say legal citizen. It says literally due to everyone. And so the fear that we're talking about is not just electoral consequences, not just Ed Martin.
Oh my goodness. CNN would never disappoint. They never disappoint. All right. The new Pope is an American. How do you feel about
Before we can go Google
the
all
Pope
the things about him.
being American? How do you guys feel about the new Pope being from the United States? I think this is the Trump effect. This man had an AI image of himself as the Pope. All of a sudden, the Pope comes from the United States, the first ever Pope. Yeah, this is the Trump effect. Nobody can tell me this ain't the Trump effect. This right here is the Trump effect. And a lot of people say this is due. You know, like America gives the church a lot of money. And, you know, this Pope coming from the United States is a big win for the United States. But let's see how it goes.
Before we can go Google all the things about him or find the videos or the tweets or learn about his career and his CV, and I think we see it. Sorry.
There we go. That
Is
certainly
that-
looks like smoke and white smoke.
Is that
It
white?
is. We're gonna watch it.
And it's so short. It is so short. I mean, the conclave lasted for what, 48 hours or 24 hours? This is how you know conclaves don't last for 24 hours. He goes for like 2-3 weeks or more. All of a sudden, 24 hours, 48 hours, boom, American Pope. Yeah, Trump is like, yo, don't waste no time. Put my boy in there real fast.
I'm going to go to Aaron, and Aaron, as I toss to you, obviously the crowd there thinks that is the white smoke, but I know we're going to wait for the bells.
It looks as if it is, Dana. It is clearly white, and we have seen the black smoke, which was clearly black. So I think we can say this is white smoke, and they have selected a pope.
There we go.
To me, and that means the Cardinals have chosen a pope, the 267th successor of St. Peter, and shortly we will find out the name of who the Cardinals have elected and which name the new pope will be taking.
Yes, and we are watching, and everyone to breathe it in. The white smoke here over the Sistine Chapel here at the Vatican.
So I checked, I looked it up. Why was this conclave so short? It says this conclave to elect Pope Leo was short due to a combination of factors like clear consensus amongst cardinals on the desired qualities of new pope and the efficient voting process. Yeah, this is the Trump effect.
And the crowd, you see some of the celebrations, the emotion. You can't not feel the emotion being here to see something like this. I feel a little shaky, to be honest, to witness such a thing. And the joy of so many people. White smoke, as they will soon say, Christopher, Habemus Papum, we have a pope.
Yeah, incredible excitement. It was the crowd that really saw the white smoke first. And it was an electric atmosphere as the smoke came out, and it was clearly white as it billowed out from the Sistine Chapel chimney. A real sense of joy and excitement here, an amazing moment.
Joy and excitement, and as that smoke comes out, now that means there is a cardinal who is now a pope, who has accepted the mantle of St. Peter, Christopher,
right.
And will be going to the Room of Tears.
That's right. Well, he will be asked by the cardinals, do you accept? And he has to say yes or no. And then they ask him, what name will you take? And he has to say which name he will take. And then the cardinals all come up and make an oath of allegiance to the new pope. And then the Pope will go into the Room of Tears, it's called that because it's a room where traditionally popes who have just been elected are often overwhelmed by emotion. And then he'll be fitted into the white cassock. They have 3 sizes, small, medium and large.
And these are the bells we are now hearing, and you can see this right over St. Peter's Basilica. over our shoulder, we will show you. You can actually see the giant bell ringing. And that is the formal announcement and confirmation that there is a new pope here as the head of the Catholic Church in Rome. And now what happens is we wait with this joy, right? But now there is the anticipation of who. Yeah. No one knows who the new pope is, who has just been selected and elected, until we see that man walk out on the balcony with the red curtains behind us here on St. Peter's Square, which we can all see. So now, in these next minutes, as we await that, Christopher, I would imagine the tens of thousands of people who are already here, now these bells are ringing out over Rome. People will come. Oh, yes. More and more people will come to perhaps be among the very first to see the Pope. We won't know who it is until we see his face.
He will be introduced to everyone at the same time.
Yes.
And it will be the Cardinal Deacon, the Proto-Deacon, Dominic Mamberti, who will announce it. Of course, if it's not him announcing it, then he could be elected.
You know,
but we are expecting Cardinal Mamberti, the Proto-Deacon, to make the announcement, Habemus Papa. And he will then give the name of the cardinal that has been elected Pope and the name that the new Pope has decided to take.
Yes, and that tradition of taking a new name started with the first Pope, of course, St. Peter, a name no one has taken since in his honor, but he was born Simon. And, of course, we are here at St. Peter's Basilica, the very first Pope. Father Edward Beck, Passionist priest, is joining us now. So, Father Beck, here we are, this, if we presume, fifth round? Fourth or fifth. It's unclear exactly which round it was of voting. A new pope on the same day that we found out the last two popes had become a pope. So what does this mean in terms of who the man is who's going to walk out on that balcony within the next half an hour?
So exciting to be here to witness this. And I think it means either of two things. Either it was one of the front runners.
Not this guy, man. Not this guy, man.
Considering
not this guy, man.
Names, or I do think there are rumors.
Yeah, not this guy.
These are rumors, Italian rumors, that it's possibly an Italian who has been elected, and that it is not someone we've necessarily been talking about. Could be a surprise.
Man,
so I'll be very interested to see who walks out on that balcony, and also it'll be interesting to see what they wear. We know that they wear the traditional white cassock of the Pope, but if you'll remember, Pope Benedict, it didn't fit him exactly, so he wore a white alb, but he wore a red velvet mosetta with ermine, so it was a very regal, very traditional ensemble that he walked out on the balcony with. Pope Francis dispensed with all of that. He came out in simply the white soutane, the white cassock, and he said, Buonasera, very informal, and he greeted the people and asked them to pray for him. So the tone of what we see and the dress of what we see, I think, will be very important, but we can be prepared for a surprise of someone we haven't been talking about, I think, but again, it could be one of the front runners. Nobody knows. These are old rumors.
Nobody knows, and we may not know for a long time, if ever. Christopher, looking back at Pope Francis and some books that were written about how it happened for him, it also happened at this time, either this vote or the one, we're not exactly sure whether this was the fourth or fifth round, but you see how you start with a few front runners, you could have 4 or 5, and how the votes move.
Yes.
For it to have happened, I understand the past 2 times it did happen this quickly, but for it to happen this quickly, it does mean groups of people need to move behind candidates very quickly.
Yes, and I think that's how the conclave is set up. The first vote kind of sets out where support lies, and then it very quickly becomes a 2-horse race because cardinals shift their support to the leading candidates, and that's why you do get a result swiftly when it comes to a secret ballot.
Yes, a secret ballot, and watching these bells and this beautiful sound ring. The feeling of a pure sort of a celebration. Ben Wiedemann is here also in St. Peter's Square, surrounded by people. And Ben, at that instant, when they saw the smoke, what happened?
There was a great cheer, a cheer of joy, because so many people here have been waiting since yesterday to see the white smoke. We saw the black smoke at midday, and anticipation is growing as the day goes on. So what we heard was this great cheer of relief and joy as we saw that great plume of white smoke emerging from the chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel. Now, of course, as I think you already mentioned, we don't know if this was the fourth or the fifth round of voting since yesterday evening. We have yet to see. We don't know, of course, who the new pope is, but we do know habemus papa. We have a pope, as they say in Latin. So we'll have to wait and see. All eyes will be on the Basilica of St. Peter behind me to hear the name of the new pope.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. All right, here we go. Unveiling the new American Pope. Here we go.
Annuncio vobis
I announce
gaudium
to you
magnum.
a great joy.
Habemus papam.
We have a pope.
Eminentissimum.
The most eminent
Ac reverendissimum
and a
Dominum.
reverend
Dominum Robertum Franciscum.
Robert
Sancte Romane
Francis,
Ecclesiae.
Cardinal of the Holy
Cardinale
The first
Deus,
American Pope has been elected. Cardinal Prevost.
Qui sibi nomen imposuit.
who has chosen the
Leonem
name
Decimum
Well, Cardinal
Quartum.
Prevost, the
Leo
first
XIV.
American Pope in history, Chicago-born, has been elected as the 267th successor of St. Peter. Cardinal Prevost was the leader of the Vatican's office for the dicastery of bishops, the Vatican's dicastery for bishops. He is someone who spent many years as bishop in Peru, as a missionary in Peru. He was Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru. He was the leader of the Augustinian order, which is a worldwide religious order. He is known as an experienced and wise leader who can bring together people from different points of view. I can see there Cardinal Cupich from Chicago, who looks quite happy with the news. This is really an extraordinary moment.
This is an extraordinary moment, and of course, I sit here as an American. Whatever it would have been, I think you can't be but moved to tears. But this is stunning.
Leo the 14th.
Leo the 14th.
Now that's significant. Pope Leo the 13th, a Pope of Catholic.
Nobody can tell me that OG Trump didn't have anything to do with it. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care how close them doors were. I do not care how the conclave was restricted by, the doors, no phones in there, no internet. You better choose an American because OG is in the Oval Office, baby.
Catholic social teaching of Catholic social doctrine. A Pope who stood up for workers. A Pope
Don't shoot the messenger.
And Cardinal Prevost, Pope Leo the 14th, I should say, has chosen that name. That is a big statement. That is really an extraordinary moment. We all thought, people were thinking it was going to be an Italian.
Yes.
They thought they were the front runner. But as we said, as I reported, an American was not ruled out. They were looking at America.
And you were saying this was possible. It was only today when it moved as fast as it moved that everyone said, well, it must be an Italian. But let's just say this again. Cardinal Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV, is an American, currently Cardinal from Chicago, and is now the first American Pope in history. Let's watch Leo XIV coming out. Let's watch.
first American Pope, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, look at them. Yes, they're outside. They are outside. Wow.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
Peace be with you all.
Fratelli, sorelle carissimi.
Dearest brothers and sisters,
Questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto.
this is the first
Il buon
greetings
pastore
of the
che ha dato
resurrected
la
Christ,
vita per il gregge di Dio.
the good shepherd who has given up his
vorrei
life
che questo
for God.
saluto di
And
pace
I should also like
entrasse
this
nel
greeting
vostro
of
cuore,
peace
raggiungesse
to enter
le
our
vostre
hearts
famiglie,
and
a tutte
your
le
families
persone,
and to all
ovunque
those
siano,
people, wherever they
a
are,
tutti i popoli, a tutta
all
la terra.
peoples
La
throughout the
pace
world.
sia con voi.
Peace be with you.
American Pope, baby. Chicago in the building. Chicago.
Questa è la
Chicago in
pace
the
di
building,
Cristo
baby.
risorto.
This is the
Una
peace of the
pace
resurrected Christ,
disarmata, una pace disarmante, umile e
a
perseverante.
humble and perseverant peace which comes from God, God who loves us all
Incondizionalmente.
unconditionally.
Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi
Let
quella
us
voce
keep
debole, ma
in our
sempre
ears
coraggiosa di
the
Papa Francesco,
weak voice
che benediva
of
Roma.
Pope Francis that blesses Rome.
Il Papa che benediva Roma,
The
dava la
Pope
sua
who
benedizione al
blessed
mondo,
Rome
al mondo
gave his
intero,
blessing to the world, to the entire world,
giorno di Pasqua.
that morning of Easter.
Consentitemi di dar seguito a quella
Allow
stessa
me
benedizione.
to follow up
Dio
on
ci
that
vuole
blessing.
bene. Dio
God
vi ama
loves
tutti.
us. God loves
E il male
everyone.
non prevarrà.
Evil will not prevail.
Nelle mani di Dio.
We are all in the hands of God.
Pertanto, senza paura,
Therefore, without
uniti,
fear,
mano nella mano con
united,
Dio
hand
e
in
tra di
hand
noi,
with God and
andiamo
amongst
avanti.
ourselves, let us go forward.
Siamo discepoli di Cristo.
We are the disciples of Christ.
Ci precede.
Christ goes before
Il
us.
mondo ha bisogno della sua
The world
luce.
needs his light.
L'umanità necessita di lui come
Humanity
il ponte
needs him
per essere raggiunta da Dio
like
e
the
dal
bridge
suo amore.
to God and his love.
Aiutateci anche voi
help us and all others to build bridges with dialogue, with meeting, to be one common people, living always in peace. Thank you to Pope Francis. I should also like to thank
President
all my cardinal brethren who have chosen me to be the successor of Peter and to walk with you as a united church, always seeking peace and justice, seeking to work with men and women who are faithful to Jesus Christ, without fear, to proclaim the gospel, to be missionaries.
Sono un figlio di Sant'Agostino.
I am a son of St. Augustine, Augustinian.
Che ha detto,
Augustine, who said,
con voi sono cristiano e per
with
voi
you I am a
vescovo.
Christian,
In
and
questo
for
senso
you a
possiamo
bishop.
tutti
And I think in that sense we can all walk
verso
together
quella patria
to that
la quale
homeland,
Dio ci ha preparato.
that home which God has prepared for us.
Alla Chiesa
To the Church
di Roma, un
of
saluto
Rome,
speciale.
a very special greeting.
Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una chiesa missionaria.
We have to seek together to be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges and dialogue, always ready to accept, like this great piazza with its arms. We have to show our charity, presence, and be in dialogue with love. And I'd also like to say a greeting in Spanish to all those who, and particularly to my dearest beloved diocese in Peru, where a faithful people accompanied their bishop to share their faith with him, and who has done so much to be a faithful church. To all you, brothers and sisters of Rome, of Italy, of the entire world, we must be a synodal church, one which goes forward and which always seeks peace, charity, and to be close to those who suffer. Today,
il giorno della supplica alla Madonna di Pompei.
This is the day of the supplication to the Madonna of Pompeii. Our Mother Mary always wanted to accompany us and be near us, to help us with her love. And I should like to, therefore, pray together with you. Let us pray for this new mission, for the entire Church and for peace in the world. And let us ask for this special grace from Mary, our God.
Ave Maria, piena di grazia.
Hail Mary.
Did he just say, Mary, our God? Ooh.
Together with you, let us pray for this new mission, for the entire Church and for peace in the world. And let us ask for this special grace from Mary, our God.
Ave Maria, piena di grazia.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
Tu sei benedetta fra le donne,
You are blessed amongst all women, and blessed be the fruit of your womb. Holy Mary, pray for us sinners, and be present at the hour of our death. Amen.
I didn't hear in Jesus' name. Okay. I don't know. Okay.
CNN's Whitney Wild is there. Whitney, what are you learning about who Robert Prevost is?
Oh, well, one of the people who knows him very well, that's Father John Lydon. He lived with him for 10 years in Peru. He is now here at the Chicago Theological Union, where Pope Leo gained his Master of Divinity, then came back to teach other students of the Augustinian religious order. And he said that he is the most global, most international American Pope you can imagine because he's lived in so many different places around the world. He said that this is the moment here, it is hard to overstate the gravity of the moment here, because now American Catholics, now members of that Augustinian religious order, see themselves in the man who now leads the church.
Habemus Papam.
We have a pope.
This is the moment Catholics and papal enthusiasts had been waiting for. Pope Leo XIV, the first U.S. pontiff in history, presenting himself to the world. 69-year-old Cardinal Robert Prevost, born in Chicago, was chosen as the 267th leader of the Catholic Church on day 2 of the conclave.
La pace sia con voi.
Peace be with you.
He attended Villanova University in Pennsylvania, earning a bachelor's in mathematics before going on to receive his Master of Divinity from the Catholic Theological Union of Chicago.
I have absolutely no doubt that our new Pope Leo XIV will just be an extraordinary leader. We didn't think it was possible for an American to be the person that the cardinals would choose, but he's a person that really has the heart of the whole church.
Gracias a todos ustedes.
Cardinal Prevost has spent much of his career as a missionary in South America. He previously worked for a decade in Trujillo, Peru, and served as Bishop of Chiclayo, another Peruvian city, from 2014 to 2023. He is a dual U.S. and Peruvian national. After today's unveiling, Peru's immigration agency posted his Peruvian ID card on social media. Today, he outlined his vision for the church.
We have to seek together to be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges and dialogue.
So, I just Googled how powerful is the Pope. It says here, the Pope's power is primarily rooted in his role as the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church, a role that grants him immense moral authority and influence, particularly over the Church's 1.4 billion followers globally. Dang. 1.4 billion people on Earth, and he sort of kind of controls them. Oh, yeah. That's power right there.
Visibly emotional Pope Leo XIV also thanked the cardinals.
I should also like to thank all my cardinal brethren who have chosen me to be the successor of Peter and to walk with you as a united church, always seeking peace and justice.
He also asked the crowd to remember the legacy of his predecessor, praising the late Pope Francis, who died April 21st.
The Pope who blessed Rome gave his blessing to the world, to the entire world, that morning of Easter. Allow me to follow up on that blessing. God loves us. God loves everyone. Evil will not prevail.
Jake, it was extraordinary to go inside this building where he gave mass, where he ate with students, where he shaped the future Augustinian priests under his direction and under his leadership, and where notably he cooked. Father John Lydon says that Pope Leo loves to cook, and actually when they were in Peru together, Pope Leo would make pizzas for everyone. That was one of the things, one of the lighter anecdotes that Father John Lydon remembers about now Pope Leo. Jake.
Joining us now by phone, a close friend of Pope Leo from their time together in Peru, Father Art Porcaro. He was with him just last week. Father Porcaro, I'm so grateful to have you on the phone. Tell us a little bit about what this last meeting was like that you had with the now Pope, and can you give us any insight about whether he thought that this was a realistic possibility for the result of this conclave?
Only God knows, but certainly Bob is a very, now Leo the 14th is a very down-to-earth human being and very good human being. He's deeply spiritual person, and some people would call him reserved. I see him as well-centered, somebody who cares really very, very much about people. And the example that I could offer, I've known Bob, we were together in Peru, and in Rome he was prior general. I worked with him and helped a little bit in his diocese in Chiclayo. Men love Peru. He became a Peruvian citizen, so he could be able to identify at least nationality with the people there. Bob is a truly international person, and as I say, cares so much about people. So this past week, April 26th, was my 50th anniversary of ordination. I had asked to have Mass with then Cardinal Prevost, and if possible, we might arrange to meet with Pope Francis. Well, God had a different plan and called Pope Francis to himself. So Cardinal Prevost said, but come anyway, you can celebrate the Mass. So I celebrated as a priest the Mass that Cardinal Prevost was present at for the funeral. And my family, my brother was arriving with his family at the airport, picked them up after the Mass. And I mentioned to Cardinal Prevost, it would be lovely if he'd be able to come have dinner with us. He said, gee, I have the Mass of the 9 days with for Pope Francis, but maybe I'll be there for dessert. And sure enough, in the rain with an umbrella over his head, he came down to the restaurant walking, and we sat together with the family and enjoyed gelato in Rome. This is the human person, Bob. He cares about people.
I have to say, the fact that you can so easily, and I can hear you struggling a little bit, you keep referring to him as Bob. It's so deeply humanizing, and really, actually, I know it's a small thing, but it says a lot about who this new Pope is. Can you tell us a little bit more about your time in Peru? And I mean, I think everyone is trying to understand. I mean, we, of course, have been focused on, oh my gosh, we're stunned. There's an American who's a Pope. I certainly, obviously, have lived here all my life and understand what that might mean. What do you think that he took away from the time that he spent in Peru that is going to influence how he governs the Roman Catholic Church?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a great opportunity to share. I think this is a true understanding of who Leo the 14th is understand somebody willing to leave his family, to leave opportunities, to go work among other people who had a great need for a minister. So when Father then Prevost came to Peru, young priest, he came to not to replace people there, but to help build up the Peruvian church and identify with the people as Christ identified with those who were most left out. So Father Prevost at that point in time, I'm very aware now to use the word Bob, try to be conscious of the fact that
I love
Father
it so
Prevost much. and then here's somebody who, because he felt called and was at service and great service to the people, became prior general of the entire Order of St. Augustine worldwide, and reelected in that post. People saw in him the ability to govern, to lead, to manage, but a caring person. And he knows Italian, as we all heard from the Loggia. He knows Spanish, as we heard also from there, how brilliant. He's speaking directly to people, the people of the city of Rome in Italian. This is a person of the style of Pope Francis.
Yeah.
As somebody who knows that we are called to be close to others, and particularly to those who have been left out. I think Father Prevost and Cardinal Prevost brought to and brings to the church.
Well, shout out to the Pope. Hopefully he has a very successful tenure. Yeah, hopefully his tenure goes well for him, and hopefully it helps the world. That's what we pray for. A better world, new American Pope. All right, Joe Biden.
1 week and 5 days before the release of a book that I and reporter...
This is the thing, like, Joe Biden, I don't know why he's coming out. He's been coming out to talk. He's been talking a lot. He's going to bury the Democrat Party. If he keeps going like this, there will be no Democrat Party left.
Alex Thompson wrote about the cover-up of President Biden's cognitive decline. The Bidens are back. They gave their first joint TV interview since leaving the White House. And former President Biden had some harsh criticism for his successor, President Trump, calling President Trump's return to power, quote, the worst 100 days any president's ever had. But Biden also took responsibility for the role he played in returning Trump to the White House to a degree. CNN's Arlette Saenz has this look at the Bidens' return to public view.
Former President Joe Biden back in the spotlight and denying claims of cognitive decline while serving in the nation's highest office.
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that.
The 82-year-old former president sitting with the host of The View for the entire hour, defending his time in the White House and handling of the 2024 election.
The only reason I got out of the race was because I didn't want to have a divided Democratic Party.
But it was his wife, former First Lady Jill Biden, who offered the most forceful pushback and denied shielding her husband from public view.
I did not create a cocoon around him. I mean, you saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making...
Wait. He brought her to the interview? Oh, man. This is what the world has been talking about. She's like his caregiver. And now she's here with him at the interview. What in the world?
Forceful pushback and denied shielding her husband from public view.
I did not create a cocoon around him. I mean, you saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making speeches. He wasn't hiding somewhere.
Biden's round of interviews this week comes ahead of the release of several books expected to examine Biden's mental acuity and his decision to seek re-election.
Everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
His disastrous
That was the moment. That right there was the moment Trump won the election. This is when American people was like, wait, is that our president?
Everything we have to do with...
Look at him.
Look.
Trump like...
If we finally beat Medicare...
His disastrous performance against Donald Trump in a CNN debate set off a wave of panic among Democrats, with prominent party leaders privately and publicly urging him to drop out of the 2024 race.
The Democratic Party at large didn't buy into it, but the Democratic leadership and some of the very significant contributors did.
Polling before and after the debate showed a majority of voters, including many Democrats, had doubts about his ability to serve another term, not just defeat Trump. And almost 4 weeks later, Biden ended his campaign.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered.
The move left his vice president, Kamala Harris, with less than 4 months to wage a campaign, a fact Biden got wrong today.
There were still 6 full months.
Biden says he's not surprised Harris didn't win, blaming her loss on sexism.
I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country and a woman of mixed race.
But Biden now acknowledging his own role in Trump's return to the White House.
Do you take any responsibility for Trump's race?
What? Man, this man right here. I'm so glad is the president of the United States. What is he doing, yo? the ultimate salesman right there.
In Trump's return to the White House.
Do you take any responsibility for Trump's reelection?
Yes, I do, because look, I was in charge and he won. So, I take responsibility.
Now, former President Biden has really laid low since leaving the White House, but we've slowly started to see him speak out, including criticizing his successor, President Donald Trump. One thing that is occupying a lot of Biden's time right now, he said in that interview on The View that he is working on his memoir, something he's been asked to deliver in the coming year. But it all does come at a time when there is a lot of discussion within the Democratic Party about how involved Biden should stay, especially as they are trying to rebuild and look ahead to the next crop of leaders that could lead the party. Jake.
Arlette Saenz, thanks so much. Let's bring in somebody who was there at the table for President Biden's interview on The View, CNN.
Who do you think is going to lead the Democrat Party? Who do you think is going to lead the Democrat Party? You think AOC? You think Bernie Sanders? Well, maybe not Bernie Sanders. You think Jasmine Crockett? Jasmine Crockett. She's the new star, I can tell you that much. But people are calling her ratchet. So I don't know if she's going to do that.
Political commentator and View co-host Alyssa Farah Griffin. Alyssa, congratulations on the interview. You asked President Biden a number of tough questions, and I want to talk about those in more detail. But first, what was your general impression of President Biden, what you heard from him, how he spoke, et cetera?
Listen, this is the second time I've interviewed President Biden now, and the one thing that really struck me from the moment he got to the table was he and his team are clearly very aware that his legacy is being written right now, and they feel and have this strong sense that they need to fight back and shape the narrative. He immediately got into rattling off accomplishments.
Shout out to Ruffles for the super chat. Appreciate that. Let's go.
From his term in office. And I think it's in breaking with a lot of past precedent from other presidents who generally let their legacy breathe and kind of go off into the sunset and let someone else come into their role. So there's a very keen sense that if they don't get out there, someone else is going to write their story for them. And Jake, I have to say, I directly asked them about books coming out, thinking of your book that's coming out. I think this is something his team is thinking about and concerned about, and they want to be able to shape as much of a narrative in advance to get ahead of stories that you may be breaking in it. Yeah,
the book, Original Sin, comes out May 20th, so that's 12 days, I guess. Let's play part of that exchange.
What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. One of the things that and
Alyssa, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not.
Wait, is she trying to help him? She's trying to help him answer the question. Okay, here we go. Help him. Help the former president. Help him out. Help him.
Saying that, number one. One of the things that
Alyssa, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us.
So interesting observation, as if historians have to live in the White House in order to write about the White House, about any sort of presidency.
And Alex Thompson covered the White House.
Yeah. Alex covered it quite extensively.
That moment, I think, it jumped out to me. Having worked in the first Trump administration. It's not just the people that absolute closest to the president, by the way, like a spouse that has an idea of what their general mental health is like every day, their ability to do the job, if they're stumbling in meetings. There's quite a few aides, if given access, who should have access to those things. And part of the question I asked and another colleague did is, was there an effort to kind of keep a tight-knit circle so any of these slip-ups wouldn't get out to the public? And my general sense is this. Listen, he is an older man. He acknowledged, look, I would have been 86 had I won a second term. He doesn't shy away from that. He does have slip-ups. That's something we've seen with Joe Biden. But I think this was very much an effort to signal I was fully in control when I was in office. And he kept pointing to I wouldn't have been able to pass these many things he's proud of if that weren't the case.
Okay. Well, again, the more than 200 people that Alex Thompson and I interviewed, all of them Democrats, all of them supporters of Biden, will get to have their say starting next week. President Biden appeared in two segments.
And Jake, if I...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, if I could mention, I did ask specifically if, what his relationship was with President President Obama, who was reportedly somebody who behind the scenes was concerned about him. And he didn't answer the question directly. He gave a more generic response before the former First Lady stepped in. And I think that's something the public would really want to know. I mean, the most powerful force in Democratic politics of the last 30 years, Barack Obama, and the role he played in thinking he needed to step in because of his concerns over Joe Biden.
Yeah. The sources for our book were people who liked, if not loved, Joe Biden. But more on that when the book comes out. Alyssa Farah-Griffin, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Joining us now to discuss is CNN political analyst Alex Thompson. Alex is the co-author, along with CNN anchor Jake Tapper, of Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again. Great to see you.
Isn't it just wild that CNN can be talking like this, talking about how bad Joe Biden was, his health, his cognitive decline. These folks were saying he was ready to go. He's ready to go. That's what they said. MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, they said he was good to go. All of a sudden, Joe Biden caused the downfall of the Democrat Party. They turn on you real fast. They will turn on you.
As always, before we get to the substance of the conversation on The View, I wonder why you think the former president is choosing to speak now and why that forum of The View.
My reporting is that he wants to actually get out there and respond, not just to Jake and I's book, but you had those previous two books last month where there were also allegations of him not remembering people that he should have known or seeming out of it during debate prep. That came from Ron Klain. And so they want to try to show that, he wasn't in decline, that he could still be president right now, despite many of the feelings in the Democratic Party. Politico reported this morning that they actually brought on another aide to help with their comms in order to sort of push back on this narrative that is continuing to cement as more reporting comes forward.
Yeah, he was asked about these books coming out and these allegations, and he said, quote, "They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that." And then Dr. Jill Biden, who was alongside him for the interview, chimed in and said, "One of the things I think is that people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us." First of all, why do you think Dr. Biden was alongside him, joining the former president for this interview?
There we go.
I think that she sees herself as the ultimate defender, the ultimate loyalist, and feels that when he is attacked, that she feels attacked too and wants to be part of that. I remember, one line in her memoir that sticks out is that she essentially said that she always keeps a list and never forgets when someone has slighted her husband, and that's because she doesn't believe in rewarding bad behavior.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I wonder what you make of the argument that these stories, these allegations have no merit. There's nothing to sustain that, the former president said.
Well, I'd say our reporting shows that many people inside the Biden White House disagree. And they do believe that there was a significant decline and a cover-up of that, especially in 2023 and 2024.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. Now, a lot of people have been saying that when will the Trump administration ink? Okay, so they've been asking, right? When will the Trump administration ink a trade deal? Well, the Trump administration has just done a trade deal with the UK, and it's a big deal, an historic deal. Just give this man a chance, okay? I know people think it's racist, is this, is that. Whatever you think, just give him a chance, okay? Give him a chance. I know the media has turned you apart from this guy. Just relax and let him do his job, man. Let him do his job. Anyway, this was an announcement by the Trump administration this morning. Well, yesterday morning. Here we go.
You all set to go? This is
ready when you are.
Okay, we're ready. We have the Prime Minister on the phone, and we have a nice hookup. This looks like the kind of a hookup that's not going to be causing any problems. And your voice comes through beautifully, Keir. So I just want to...
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it is. You sound great. I just want to begin by saying that this is a very special day because it's Victory Day, World War II, May 8th. And just by happenstance, we have the Prime Minister on the phone, and we were great allies in that. And it's very unusual that the trade deal comes due, and we signed it up on the same day that we had a great victory, the greatest victory of them all. So we are talking more and more about Victory Day because we were a big part of it, and so was the UK. And it's just, I guess, I don't know what you call it. It's just incredible that that day is the same day that we signed a tremendous trade deal for both countries. So I'm going to begin by just adding that we just concluded the rare earth deal with Ukraine. That's been fully ratified and approved by their legislative branches. And so we appreciate that. And I'll be speaking with the president in a little while, a little bit later. And we appreciate that. But the deal is all now signed up and ratified. And we have access to a massive amount of very, very high quality rare earth. This morning, I'm thrilled to announce that we've reached a breakthrough trade deal with the United Kingdom, incredible country. Today is a victory day for World War II. We won the war together exactly 80 years ago, so there could be no more perfect morning to reach this historic agreement. And it's beautiful weather out, I will tell you that, Keir, beautiful weather. It's so perfect outside. But it's really, in particular, the agreement with one of our closest and most cherished allies. And we're so happy that that's the way it worked out. I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer and his very talented team for their outstanding work and partnership. Today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade that my administration has been negotiating over the past 4 weeks. With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade. The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. And our Secretary, as you know, of Agriculture is here. Brooke, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, sir.
You'll let the farmers know. In addition, the UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products. But this is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries because it'll be really great for the UK also. So they're opening up the country. Their country is a little closed, and we appreciate that. They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways. The final details are being written up in the coming weeks. We'll have it all very conclusive, but the actual deal is a very conclusive one. We think just about everything's been approved. So good for both countries, and we'll also receive new market access for American chemicals, machinery, and many other industrial products that weren't allowed, and they'll end up getting products that they'll be able to price, and if they like them better and we make great products, they'll be buying those products, but they were not available in the UK. Furthermore, in a historic step, the deal includes plans that will bring the United Kingdom into the economic security alignment with the United States. That's the first of its kind. So we have a big economic security blanket, and that's very important. And we feel very, very comfortable with that because it's been a great ally, truly one of our great allies. I mean, a lot of people say our greatest ally. I don't want to insult people by saying that, but I can say it's certainly one of our greatest, and right at the top. And they're the first one we're talking about. And by the way, we have many meetings planned today and tomorrow, and every country wants to be making deals. And we have a meeting, as you know, Scott will be going over to Switzerland on Saturday, and that'll be very, very interesting. We'll find out, but I think they want to make a deal very badly too. Both countries have agreed that the economic security is national security and will be working together as allies to ensure that we have a strong industrial base, appropriate export controls, and protections for key technologies and industries like steel. Steel is a big factor. Both countries will become stronger with steel and things necessary for military. You know, we used to build ships and other things literally at a level that nobody's ever seen, and we haven't, we've eased up, and I would say that the UK certainly eased up, but now we're going to be uneasing both, and we work together. Once again, I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer. He's been terrific for his partnership in this matter, the special relationship and external bond. It's really an external and an internal bond between our two countries will soon be stronger than ever before, and we really do. We have a great relationship. I want to just say that the representatives of UK have been so professional, and it's been an honor doing business with all of them, and in particular the Prime Minister. And I'd like to introduce him now to say a few words. Mr. Prime Minister, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. President, Donald. And this is a really fantastic, historic day in which we can announce this deal between our two great countries. And I think it's a real tribute to the history that we have of working so closely together. Can I pay tribute, Donald, to your negotiating team as well, particularly yes. Howard and Jameson, who've done an incredible job, a very professional job, and my team as well. Two negotiating teams have worked at pace now for a number of weeks to bring in this deal today. Really important deal. This is going to boost trade between and across our countries. It's going to not only protect jobs but create jobs, opening market access. And as you say, Donald, the timing couldn't be more apt, because not only was it 80 years ago today that victory came for Europe after and at the end of the Second World War, but of course on that day the UK and the US stood together as the closest of allies. And Donald, I think even down to the hour, because you may or may not know that it was about this time of day, exactly 80 years ago, that Winston Churchill announced victory in Europe, and that led to great celebrations across Europe, across America, but particularly in the United Kingdom. Literally people going out into the street, putting bunting up, going up to the palace. And so to be able to announce this great deal on the same day, 80 years forward, almost at the same hour, and as we were 80 years ago, with the UK and the US standing side by side, I think is incredibly important and makes this truly historic. That close relationship has endured over those 80 years. As you know, Donald, when it comes to defence and security and intelligence sharing, of course, there are no two countries that are closer than our two countries. And now we take this into new and important territory by adding trade and the economy to the closeness of our relationship. It is built, as you say, on those notions of fairness and reciprocal arrangements. We've always had a fair and balanced arrangement between our countries. This builds on that, hugely important for sectors like car manufacturing and for steel and aluminium and so many others. And yes, we can finish ironing out some of the details, but there's a fantastic platform here, including, of course, on the tech side, where I think I'm right in saying we're the only two Western countries with trillion-dollar sectors when it comes to tech. And in the end, it comes down to, as you say, Donald, economic security is national security. On national security, we've been absolutely the closest of allies for so many years, keeping the peace through that close alliance, that friendship. And now we add to that this deal on trade and the economy. And I want to thank you for your leadership on that, Donald, and for the way in which your team have negotiated this. And I'm so pleased that we've got this deal, we've finalised it, and we've built an incredible platform for the future. So thank you so much. Donald, I'm now going to go and do a press conference. I think you have your press in with you. But on the details, I think if you've got Howard, we can deal with that through one of my team.
That's great. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. It's an honor. We're going to have a continued, maybe a better relationship than ever before. You know, I don't know if the media knows, but the U.S. and U.K. have been working for years to try and make a deal. And it never quite got there.
Yeah.
It did with this Prime Minister. So I want to just congratulate you.
Well, with this President, this Prime Minister, we've managed to achieve what many people have tried to achieve for many years.
That's right.
And I'm really pleased. And it feels completely historic and on a special 80-year anniversary as well. So, Donald, thank you so much. It's really good to have got this deal over the line. Tribute to both teams, tribute to our countries, and tribute to your leadership.
Thank you. Well, it really is a great thing. And you go do your press conference, and I'll see you soon. Maybe speak to you later. But thank you very much. An incredible thing. I can't tell you that for so many years, even as I sat, everybody talked and talked and talked about a deal with, it just seemed like a natural deal, but it was not done. But now it was done with us. So I feel very proud to have been a part of it. Keir, thank you very much.
Thanks, Donald, and we'll speak again soon.
Very good. So long. Bye. Why don't I do this? Why don't I have our Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, give a little description of the deal pretty quick, and then the good side, the very nice side, we'll be speaking about it also, maybe, from so you get a pretty equal. I think it's a very, it's just been a deal that was, we thought, very complicated. It became very simple. It's opening up the country that we really didn't have the kind of access to that I would have thought. I was surprised. I think it's why the deal never got done before. It was, you know, they've been working on this deal for 25 years. And we got it done, and we got it done. Really, it's going to be great for both countries. So, Howard, if you could go, and then somebody else, you may have, you'll pick whoever you want who'd like to do it. I have a feeling you're going to do it, right? So you guys go ahead, and then we'll take questions right after that. But I think you'll get a pretty good understanding of how big it is. It's a very large deal, very big deal. And Howard, go ahead.
So the UK is the 6th largest economy in the world and the 4th largest that we export to, right? So it's a huge market, a top 10 market. If you remember Liberation Day, they were at 10% because we have balanced trade with the UK, right? They say they have a surplus, but of course that counts gold bullion, which is, so let's just call it balanced trade. So how do you open up a market in balanced trade? People think it's impossible. They've always thought it was impossible until President Trump came on the scene and changed the way things work. So here's what we've got. We've opened up new market access, ethanol, beef, machinery, all the agricultural products. They've agreed to open their markets, and that will add $5 billion of opportunity to American exporters. So the question is, why would they do that now? Because they've never done it before, and we still have our 10% tariff on, which will produce $6 billion of revenue for the United States. So the idea was, how do they keep their jobs, protect their economy, and do the best for their people while opening the market for us? And the way is they studied it, their team was exceptional, and they tried to figure out the markets that they're importing from other people and try to send them over to America. So why were they always favoring others and not us? And what they've done is they've found the ways to do that so that we have new access, right? But the UK workers are protected, and that was the balance. So we did a deal with them in automobiles, and you know, if you're not building here, we charge you a 25% tariff. But the president, and by the way, I want to make this clear, while Jameson and I worked hard This was the president's deal. And people think, oh, that's not the way it works. If you got to sit next to him, I have the best deal maker to my left. And if you don't think that we take advantage of him calling the prime minister and getting that deal done, you don't understand who's the president of the United States. So he's the closer. He gets deals done that we could never get done because he understands business, he understands deals, and that's why we're here today. So he agreed they could send 100,000 cars into America and only pay a 10% tariff. And that protects their car industry. And remember, we do 16 million cars a year. So this is only like 0.6%. But for the UK auto people, this is tens of thousands of jobs that the president agreed that he would protect for them. So he made that deal, right? Then steel and aluminum, right? Their steel business has been destroyed like everybody else has been destroyed by people dumping steel into their markets. And British Steel had announced it was closing down. So the British government, as part of this deal, nationalized British Steel, and they're going to match the kinds of models we do. They'll put tariffs on, they'll put quotas on. They want to do it with America so they can be part of the resurgence of steel and aluminum in America, and that saves them, again, thousands and thousands of jobs. So if you go step by step, aero and commercial planes, they sell Rolls-Royce engines to Boeing. We've agreed to let Rolls-Royce engines and those kind of plane parts to come over tariff-free. And what you're going to hear today is there's going to be an announcement at the UK that they are buying $10 billion worth of Boeing planes later today, but I'm going to let the name of the airline announce it because that's theirs to do. But part of this deal was always to do it together and to do it strong, and you can see the numbers on this board. Everything about this board works exceptionally well for the United States of America. It lays out the plan that you can work with us in autos, you can work with us with aero and commercial, you can work with us in pharmaceuticals if you have a supply chain that is secure and protected in national security. So we feel really good about the deal. You've heard the Prime Minister, he feels really good about the deal, right? And we started at 10% and we ended at 10%. And the market for America is better, and this is a perfect example of why Donald Trump produced Liberation Day. People don't understand he gets things done in a matter of time. This would have taken Jameson and I 3 years, maybe. And instead, we got it done in 45 days, certainly, because we work for Donald Trump. So Jameson, my partner in all this, maybe Jameson, you'd like to talk a little, and then we'll turn it over to the UK.
Sure, happy to do that. Everyone has had great remarks. I just have to echo the President and the Prime Minister when we talk about VE Day. This is something we've been waiting for decades, and there is no more appropriate day to do this. And when we step back and we look back a few weeks from now or months from now or years from now, we're going to look back at this day and better appreciate the significance, I think. And I'll just say as well, in terms of negotiating, I mean, the UK negotiators, you know, we've got one right here, did an incredible job, right? This is why you win wars, right? When you act like this, and the ambassador, he knows more about trade than a lot of us here, based on his background. And I would say on this deal, Mr. President, what we've shown is that it is time to change the way we do trade. People said we couldn't do a global tariff. We did a global tariff. They said no one would want to deal with us. People want a deal. They said no one give offers. You saw that stack of offers I showed you yesterday, all those countries. Said we wouldn't get deals, and here we are with a deal with the 6th largest economy. We've agreed to have fair and reciprocal trade, and we've done it in record time.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ambassador, please.
Well, Mr. President, thank you very much indeed in hosting us this morning. And thank you very much indeed also for that very typical 11th hour intervention by you with your phone call to the President, demanding even more out of this deal than any of us expected. So thank you for that. The Prime Minister was delighted, obviously, to take that call late at night. But you took it to another level, and I think the point I would make is twofold. One is that if we're going to rebalance and rebuild international trade in a way that serves all our interests, then we're better doing that together than separately and apart, and that's what we're on a mission to do. But secondly, you've done what you said you would do. You said to the Prime Minister when he came and we visited in the Oval that you would do a good trade deal with the United Kingdom, that you would do it at pace, and that we would be first. And you have delivered that. You've been true to your word. So thank you very much indeed for that. For us, it's not the end. It's the end just of the beginning. I mean, there is yet more we can do in reducing tariffs and trade barriers so as to open up our markets to each other even more than we're agreeing to do today. But it also provides us with the platform, the springboard, to do what I think will be even more valuable for both our countries in the future, and that's creating a technology partnership between the United States and the United Kingdom so that we can harness science and technology in order to create future industries and future jobs, and to do that together in the way we work so closely already in the national security and defense area. We can just take that to yet further areas of science, enterprise and endeavor. So we're looking forward to doing that in the coming months. You've launched us extremely well today. It just, in my view, as the Prime Minister has said, just shows what two countries who trust each other, who are confident in each other and are familiar with each other can do, not just for ourselves, but for those, the rest of the world, who need to benefit from a bigger and better international trading system.
Thank you very much. It was beautifully stated. What a beautiful accent, too. I'd like to have that accent. Thank you.
My mother would be proud.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
James Matthews from Sky News.
Yes.
Can I ask, why Britain and why now? And you've described this deal as a full and comprehensive deal, and yet we've just heard from Mr. Mandelson, it's the end of the beginning. Clearly, there's much more work still to do. With respect, are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal because you're a president who needs a result at a difficult time?
I think that it's a great deal for both parties. It's for us. We're opened up. I didn't know how closed it was. Quite closed, the market, as you know, the UK, and it opens up a tremendous market for us, and it works out very well, and a lot of assets. You see the chart, and those are tremendous assets. But we've been trying, and when you say why us, meaning your country, we've been trying for years, and they've been trying for years to make a deal, including when I was in the, first term. It would always be people talking, but they weren't getting it done. But for 25 years before that, they were trying always to make a deal, a very significant deal. I actually, until I looked at the numbers, I didn't realize this is a very conclusive deal, but we think we can grow it even from that. But this is a maxed out deal, not like you said it. You said it really incorrectly. This is a maxed out deal that we're going to make bigger, and we make it bigger through growth. But we have tremendous assets involved. I was surprised to see how big your country is in trade, actually. One of the biggest in technology and so many other things. It's agriculture. I really didn't know. It's depending on your definition, it's from 4 to 5 to 6. That's pretty big in the world. So I was very impressed by that. But we're going to take it to new levels. It's a very big deal right now, but I think it is going to grow just of its own volition. It's going to grow, and over time there'll be changes made, there'll be adjustments made because we're flexible. We'll see things that we can do even better, but it's very conclusive, and we think everyone's going to be happy, and the people of your country are going to be very impressed with the result, and they'll be able to buy from more people. They'll be able to price things differently. They'll be able to get some products that aren't available to them now that we make better than anybody in the world. And it's just something that it's a great thing that it came together. It's so nice because we have many countries want to make a deal, and many countries are very unhappy that we happen to choose this one, to be honest with you. But it's a long time, our oldest ally, or just about, Guess a couple of people claim that too, but let's put it right at the top. I think it's going to be something very special for UK and special for the United States. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. How close are you to more deals, and when do you expect the next to be announced?
Well, very close. We have numerous deals. I know Howard's going back as soon as this is finished, your press conference. He's got numerous. And Scott, who's right over here, who's fantastic, by the way. You were great on television this morning. I watched you. That was you gave them a little lesson in the world and economics. But Scott's going to be going to Switzerland, meeting with China. And, they very much want to make a deal. We can all play games. Who made the first call? Who didn't make it doesn't matter. It only matters what happens in that room. But I will tell you that China very much wants to make a deal. We'll see how that works out. Every country throughout the last 40, 50 years has literally ripped off the United States on trade, on military, on protection, on all the different things. And we are now making fair deals. And in this case, it's great because we really weren't very much involved. You have the European Union, which is, I think you made the right decision years ago. I don't know if you remember, I was opening up Turnberry the day that you were voting. And they asked me, would it happen or would it not happen? I said, no, I think they're going to go their own separate way. I think it's better for them. And they did. I think it's going to end up being a very smart decision. But a big part of that decision was always that you'd be able to make a deal with the United States. And they were unable to do that. But now they made it. And it's a tremendous, it's very important. That was always a big part of your decision on Brexit. And they were never able to make that deal. It was a tough one. And this one it's amazing with time. This one just went very smoothly, went quickly and smoothly. And a lot of common sense, as I like to say. It's tremendous common sense, but it's going to make your country much bigger in terms of trade, and it's going to make our country much bigger in terms of trade, too. Yes,
Thank you.
Behind you.
Tom Bateman at the BBC. Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned meat.
You with who?
The BBC.
Oh, good. Very nice. They treat me beautifully.
You mentioned meat and beef exports. The UK currently doesn't accept American beef because of its own food standards. Are you calling on the UK to accept all American beef and chicken products?
Well, I think they'll take what they want. We have plenty of it. We have every type. We have every classification you can have. As you know, Bobby Kennedy is doing a tremendous job, and he's, I think, probably heading toward your system with no chemical, no this, no that. I think we're heading that way. It seems to be, and but we have that also. So we're a very big country. We have a lot of beef. We're a very big country, so it'll be great. Yes, yes.
Do you want me to jump in?
Yes.
Let's talk about American beef really quickly, and it can't be understated. I'm Brooke Rollins, by the way. How important this deal is and what this means to American farmers and ranchers. Specific to the beef, this is going to exponentially increase our beef exports. And to be very clear, American beef is the safest, the best quality, and the crown jewel of American agriculture for the world. So I think a really important part of this deal isn't just the ethanol reducing of tariffs from 19 to 0, which for our row croppers is a huge deal, but also for beef. And as we move forward, I know our incredible trade team is looking at all of the meats, all of the produce, really all of our agriculture exports. And I don't know if there's an industry that has been treated more unfairly and has suffered more than our agriculture industry. So we look forward to, I'll be in the UK on Monday, talking to my counterpart over there for next week, and look forward to moving that out across the country. The president is incredible.
I think we could say that we have the best in the world, best tractors, the best everything in the world, and they say that our agriculture is, second to none. You understand, and it'll be a great asset. People are going to be able to have options, choice, and they'll have more of it. And that usually means lower prices. How about we'll do you and then you? Go ahead.
Question for the Italian TV, Daniele Compatangelo, LA7, TV 2000, Primetime Media. So congratulations for the deal. We see a big revenues from the chart. But what's the rest of Europe? It's a victory day, but other European countries, it seems like they're losing the train.
We intend to make a deal with Europe. We have found that the European Union treated us extremely unfairly, very difficult, and hurt themselves in doing so. and they very much want to make a deal. We'll be dealing with them. We are dealing with them currently. So that'll cover pretty much the rest of it. But this was separate because of Brexit in particular. This was a separate deal. It always seems so natural. I mean, all the media would say that this seemed to be like, why did this happen 25 years? Why didn't it happen a long time ago? And it was always amazing to me. Somebody would say, hey, we got to make a deal. We have to make a deal. But this deal just fell into place. The Prime Minister did a fantastic job. His representatives are total professionals, and they got along well. And it just seemed to work. And I think one of the reasons it did is because we blew up the whole system. If we would have just been dealing with you separately or, country by country, we blew up the whole system. It was very fair to very unfair to the United States. And I think because of that, this worked out so nicely. And I'm honored that it was the first deal. Please.
Sir, you mentioned...
Well, why don't you go in the back, yes.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm with the London Times. I would say this is a great day for James Bond because now Aston Martins will be available to American buyers. But will it be even better by extending it to film? You've talked about a big tariff on films, and we'd like to know if there'd be relief on British.
Well, we're going to have a discussion on that separately. And as you know, we're putting tariffs on that particular film, you said, the movie makers. And we're going to be doing some tariffs to get them because a lot of them have left this country. They all live here. The money comes from here. Everything comes from here, but they make them in other countries. So we're going to do something to bring them back, maybe to a large extent. But James Bond has nothing to worry about that, I can tell you. James Bond. And Sean Connery was a friend of mine. Sean Connery was responsible for my getting zoning in Aberdeen. He said, let the bloody bloke build his golf courses. And, I was like 4 years into the process, and it was impossible in Aberdeen. And he just stood up one day and he said that. As soon as he said that, I got the approvals in about 2 minutes. So he was a great guy, Sean Connery, and great character.
Later in the year, are you going to Scotland and to the UK?
I will be, sure. It's great. We have a lot of investment over there. We have Turnberry, Aberdeen. We have, as you know, in Doonbeg in Ireland, right on the ocean. They're all on the ocean. I only have interest if they're on the ocean. And we have good investments over there. Been beautiful. Yes?
Mr. President, if the talks go well this weekend between Secretary Bessent and Ambassador Greer with their Chinese counterparts, not preemptively, but if the talks go well, would you then consider lowering the tariff rate on China?
Well, it could be. I mean, we're going to see. Right now, you can't get any higher. It's at 145, so we know it's coming down. I think we're going to have a very good relationship. I always got along very well with President Xi. That relationship was greatly disturbed by COVID when COVID came in, but we get along very well now. I mean, the relationship was hurt with a lot of people, a lot of countries when COVID came in. But I think we're going to have a very good relationship. I expect to have a very good relationship with China, Scott. I think it's a very friendly meeting. They look forward to doing it in an elegant way. China, as you know, has a tremendous trade surplus with us, and we just can't have that. And but I think it's going to be very good for both countries. I would like to see China opened. One of the big things here is, and nobody would know this, but the UK was largely closed. It was very much closed to trade, and now it's opened. And a lot of the financial reporters are very happy about that because so much. I listened to them. I hope they get countries opened up. And then you compete on a fair basis, but you can't compete when you're not allowed to go there. China would be the number one example of that. It's very closed. We almost had it last time before COVID, and that didn't work out. But we made a great deal with China. They had to buy $50 billion worth of our food products, and it was a great deal, doing very well for our farmers. And then when Biden came in, as usual, nothing happened. He didn't enforce it. And it got less, and ultimately, it destroyed a great deal. That was a great deal. But no, I think that we're going to have a good weekend with China. I think they have a lot to gain. I do think they have far more to gain than we do in a sense, but we're going to have I think we're going to have a very good weekend.
Will you speak to Xi after the weekend talks?
I might, yeah, sure, depending on what Scott says. We Scott is doing certain countries and Howard's doing certain countries. I mean, I wish I had like 10 more of each, then we could do them all at one time. But there will be a time, we'll do a number of them, and then there'll be a time, I think I can say this, Scott and Howard, where we're just going to say, because we understand the countries, we understand what they want, where we're just going to make the deal. In other words, we don't need the country involvement because we've already had it. And we'll say this particular country, which had big surpluses, let's say, we had therefore deficits, that this particular country is going to pay a 25% tariff or a 30% or a 50% or 10% or whatever it may be. This was, I think we should explain it now, Howard. One of the things we did here that we'll rarely do is on cars, we took it from 25 to 10 on Rolls-Royce because Rolls-Royce is not going to be built here. I wouldn't even ask them to do that. You know, it's a very special car, and it's a very limited number too. It's not, you know, one of the monster car companies that makes millions of cars. They make a very small number of cars that are super luxury, and that includes Bentley and Jaguar. So we have some very special cars. So in order to help that industry, and that's really, you know, handmade stuff. And they've been doing it for a long time in the same location. And I said, yeah, that would be good. Let's help them out with that one. But that's different than a car company that comes out and makes millions of cars, which they'll be doing in our country. They're going to build, we have many factories, car plants being built or going to be built very soon. I think we can say that we'll be close to $10 trillion of investment. I think we're actually at that number now if you add up some of the ones we haven't heard about yet. I mean, we have some going up right now. They have plants going up, and they haven't even spoken to us. They're doing it because of the tariffs. And tariffs have always been used against us, and I never understood. I used to sit back. As you know, China paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs when I was president. But until then, China never paid anything. And, you know, they really did a big number on us from the standpoint of trade. But we are using tariffs now for our benefit. And we have now close to $10 trillion. Think of that, $10 trillion. If you look at the past administration, and we're talking about over, you know, essentially 2 months, because we could say 3, but it took a little while to get the office in perfect shape, right? It took a little while to get things done. But once we started, when you think of that, close to $10 trillion of investment, you've had years where the United States wouldn't do that wouldn't do $1 trillion in a year, wouldn't do anywhere near $1 trillion. We did $10 trillion in 2 months. So it's amazing what's happening. We're getting calls from, and that has to do with chips, has to do with cars. We used to make chips. We had Intel, and we used to make chips. We had a monopoly on chips. Everything was made here, and now, over a period of years, because of presidents that didn't know what they were doing, they allowed that business to be stolen from us. Most of it moved to Taiwan. And you probably were in the same position, right? Because you had a lot of the chip making capacity, but they moved it in. And if we would have said, that's fine, if you want to move it to Taiwan, that's good. But if you want to sell back into the United States, we're going to put a 50% or 100% tariff on, they would have never left. But we had people sitting here that didn't understand that, and it's too bad. But now they're coming back because I'm saying it about 40 years too late, but they're coming back. As you know, we have the biggest chip makers in the world spending, in one case, $300 billion, in one case, $500 billion, same as Apple, and in another case, $200 billion. And we're going to have a large share, a very, very substantial share of the chip making market.
This weekend is going to be a friendly visit, but do you expect that it will just be a formality to break the ice, or are they going to get into substantive negotiations?
I believe so, yes. I believe it's substantive, yes. I think people like to say, yes, we're having a meeting to meet. Well, we're meeting, so what are we going to do? Talk about meeting again? So I think it's going to be substantive. I think we can say that, right, Scott? Very substantive. Now, China wants to do something. And look, they have to at this point. You know, essentially, they made $1 trillion a year, and now they have absolutely, you know, no business because of the tariffs. They have no business, and they want to have business. And we want them to have business. We want them to do well. We want them to do very well. So I think it's going to be very substantive.
Because business has slowed down, as you mentioned. We're
in China.
But we're seeing, as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
Yeah, no, that means we lose less money. You know, when I see that, that means we lose less money. Look, China was making over $1 trillion, 1.1 trillion, in my opinion. You know, different numbers from 500 billion to $1 trillion or $1 trillion. I think it was 1.1 trillion. And frankly, if we didn't do business, we would have been better off. Okay, you understand that. So when you say it slowed down, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But we're going to make it so they can. I'd like to say they can do better, actually, in terms of the bottom line. We'd like to see China opened up so we can compete in China and, you know, give people something that they've never had, you know, access to something. That'd be great for the world. It would be great for our businesses, and I think it would be great for friendship. I really expect a lot of people think I'm a militant guy. I'm really not. I think that trade can bring a greater friendship with China. It can be something good. But, you know, one of the things that I know Scott's going to be talking about very high on the list is open up and let our businesses go into China, because when you talk about a closed country, that's a really closed country. And I think it would be great if it was opened up. It would give people a lot of choice and would create a lot of jobs, a lot of everything. So I think it would be a great thing for China. And that's going to be one of the things we'll be discussing, like we discussed with UK. Yeah, please.
So what does Britain have to do for you to drop the baseline 10% tariff that you're maintaining?
Well, I think that's set because that has to do with a lot of different things, including past. You know, there are a lot of past things that we talk. This is very inclusive. We included everything, and that's pretty well said. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, the 10% baseline tariff remaining in place, is that a template for these future trade deals? You say you're going to keep it here.
No.
Is it going to stay in every case?
No, that's a low number. They made a good deal. Some will be much higher because they have massive trade surpluses, and, you know, in many cases they didn't treat us right. One thing with UK, they had, you know, somewhat closed, not like a China as an example, but they always treated us with great respect.
So
they treated us with great respect. The template of 10 is probably the lowest end, and therefore they, you know, made that deal. But they, you know, we've had just a very special relationship with them. Like, I won't do that deal with cars. I mean, unless somebody shows me that there's another kind of a car that's comparable to a Rolls-Royce. And there aren't too many. This is a good commercial for Rolls-Royce. They're going to order a lot of cars.
Mr. President, I wonder whether you'd like to buy.
I mean, well, the last time this happened, I ended up.
I would be happy to suggest a discount, obviously a very modest discount. We have to protect our profit margins.
I've had many of them, actually. You know, the last time that happened, I ended up buying a Tesla. You know?
Go ahead. Thank you. Mary Margaret Olahay with Daily Wire. I had a question about the UK deal today. I heard there was talk that part of the agreement would depend on whether the UK would respect free speech and freedom of religion. I know the VP is really interested in that, talked about that earlier this year. Was there any assurances that you guys got on that front?
You want to handle that?
Yeah, that was not part of the conversation. Our conversation was an economic conversation from start to finish, closed by the president yesterday. This was a business deal, open their markets, and also protect their workers, grow our markets, and help our workers.
This was about business religion. You know, business is sort of a semi-religion, but not nearly as important. I don't want to get myself into it. Go ahead, in the back.
Mr. President, will you be asking China to help you close, you know, the gap between Ukraine and Russia?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a natural thing to ask.
What do you expect?
Sure. I don't know. I think we're making good progress. The fighting is a little bit different than it was. I think if we weren't involved, Russia would be, you know, going at it to maybe get the whole thing. And without our involvement, they'd be able to get it, because we supplied a lot of different things, foolishly. But we've been sort of paid back by doing the rare earth deal that I talked about before. I think that, I think that we will be very much involved in trying to get that bloodbath. It's a bloodbath. It's a horrible situation. 5,000, it's really more than that. But it's 5,000 soldiers on average a week, mostly soldiers, are being killed. Young, beautiful people. I mean, they're being killed. I see the satellite pictures coming back, body parts lying all over fields, heads and arms. it's so terrible. I've never seen anything like it, actually. And if we can get that stopped, that will be a great accomplishment. And we're trying very hard. And I think we're close. And Mr. Witkoff is talking constantly back and forth. He's a real professional who's got a great relationship with both countries. And I think we have a good chance. And likewise, we're trying to work on Iran to get that solved without having to get into any bombing, as we say, big bombing. I don't want to do that. I want them to work a deal. I want them to be very successful.
Mr. President, Edward Lawrence from Fox Business. Yes. On the non-market barriers, how did you get the UK to bend, and what was the 11th hour deal or ask?
Well, I think it was really just a part of the overall. I mean, they have so many things that are so good for them. It's going to be so good for the country, and that was sort of easy. It wasn't. We had non-market. I call it non-market or non-monetary trade barriers, and we had quite a few of them. Not nearly as bad as some countries. Some countries have, they have virtually no tariff, but the rest of it is so brutal you can't do business with them, right? So it's a very important question, actually. No, I think the overall deal just worked out very well from their standpoint. They were willing to give that in order to get other things, and you might want to speak to that, Mr. Ambassador.
Look, the point about the deal is that we will continue reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers. This is a continuing picture. It's a movie. It's not a still picture here. It's a movie. Yeah. It continues. And we're both committed to freeing up trade between our countries. We're both committed to freeing up investment between our countries. And the point about this deal is that it provides a very good template and a very good launch pad for what we can continue to do and build on in the future. And that's what we're both determined to do.
Many of
these, we'll keep it confidential. How about just one more little thing, right? It got the deal closed, and it was handled very well from the other side too. But many of these things that we're talking about, we've been talking about this for 25 years. It's hard to explain when, if you weren't sitting behind this beautiful Resolute desk, you just wouldn't get it. I have been hearing about making a deal with UK for 25 years. And especially around the time of Brexit. They wanted to make a deal, so they came out of Brexit and they make a deal, and how natural. And it just couldn't be done. It couldn't be done. Good people. And this is a bigger deal. This is a much bigger, better, stronger deal for both of us than we ever even contemplated before. It's a big deal.
Virtually everyone said that it would end in failure, it would end in tears, and it's ended in exactly the opposite. Yeah. But, Mr. President, can I say that that is due to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Greer, who've been absolutely fantastic. But yesterday I received a call, a very diplomatic call that just edged things over the line, and that was from your new ambassador in the United Kingdom.
Who is terrific. Right?
Warren Stevens, he's here.
Where is Warren? Right here. Hello, Warren.
How are you? He's flying to London tomorrow night. He's going to be very popular with the British people. He's going to be a very successful ambassador.
And?
Were you disappointed?
And he's got plenty of cash. That guy's plenty of cash.
We need some more big spenders.
Yeah, go
Are you planning to meet Ursula von der Leyen?
You're going to go ahead fast.
Yes. Are you planning to meet Ursula von der Leyen, the president, or do you plan to cancel anytime soon?
Oh, she's so fantastic, right? She's so fantastic. I hope we're going to meet. Yeah, the answer is yes. I saw her a few days ago. And I think that we'll definitely meet, yeah. The European Union is a big thing. They want to make a deal very badly. You know, everybody wants to make a deal. Look, everybody wants to make a deal with the United States, and we're doing that, and we're going to make fair deals. I'm just honored that this was the first one. Go ahead, please.
The Federal Reserve Chairman, Mr. President, says that you would have to call him for a meeting. Do you plan to meet with him? And what do you think about?
It's like talking to a wall. He should be.
What do you think about not cutting? The Bank of England cut today.
Well, the Bank of England cut. China cut. Everybody's cutting but him. It's I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a shame. I call him Too Late, you know, Too Late Powell, that's his nickname. And it's a shame, it's ridiculous. So a meeting, he's always too late. But in this case, it's not going to matter that much because our country is so strong. We're so powerful in terms of economic strength and what we've done. And I'll tell you what, if we didn't have our first term, you wouldn't be. We created things in the first term. We cut more regulations than any president in history. We cut the taxes more than anybody in history. And a very big factor is going to be the tax bill that we have right now, the one big beautiful bill, as we call it, which is all-encompassing, the biggest tax cuts ever in history, bigger than even the first time, and the incentives, even great for the UK because it'll make us so strong that we're going to be doing more business with you. It's a very important element for taxes, for every aspect, regulation cuts. That bill is, I believe it's the biggest bill of its kind ever in the history of this country. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune have done an incredible job. I mean, I'll let you know, we have to get a vote, but we have a lot of support for that bill. And if that happens on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. You know, if we get that, if you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, if you had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. He's welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. But it's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing, unrelated to today, but related in the sense that we'll do, if that passes, we'll do even more business with the UK. We'll have so much. It's the biggest tax cut in history. It's going to make our country zoom. It's going to be incentive, as you know, with the deduction for, basically for work. You work, you build, you plant, etc., your deduction. It's going to be the biggest, it's the biggest bill of its kind ever passed, maybe the biggest bill ever passed. That's why we call it the one big, beautiful bill.
You just announced a new nominee for the U.S. Surgeon General who never finished her residency and is not a practicing physician. So can you explain why you picked her to be America's top doctor?
Because Bobby thought she was fantastic. She's she's a brilliant woman who went through Stanford, and as I understand it, she basically wanted to be an academic as opposed to a surgeon. I think she graduated first in her class at Stanford. And Bobby really thought she was great. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby. I met her yesterday and once before. She's a very outstanding person, a great academic, actually. So I think she'll be great.
Your nominee for U.S. Attorney of D.C., do you have a backup plan if this Senate does not?
But he's a terrific person, and he wasn't getting the support from people that I thought. You know, he's done a very good job. Crime is down 25% in D.C. During his period of time. I'm very disappointed in that, but I have so many different things that I'm doing now with the trade. You know, I'm one person. I can only make, boom, I can only lift that little phone so many times in a day. But we have somebody else that will be great. I just want to say Ed is unbelievable, and hopefully we can bring him into whether it's DOJ or whatever, in some capacity, because really outstanding. To me, it was disappointing, I'll be honest. I have to be straight. I was disappointed. A lot of people were disappointed. But that's the way it works sometimes, you know. That's the way it works. And he wasn't rejected, but we felt it would be hard. And we have somebody else that we'll be announcing over the next 2 days who's going to be great.
With companies like Ford and Mattel recently saying they're going to raise prices on certain products, how long do you think the American public is going to be patient and wait for you?
Well, I think they're saying that just to try and negotiate deals with me. They're not. Look, tariffs are the most misunderstood thing maybe in any form of business, anywhere in business. Oftentimes the country picks them up. Oftentimes the company picks it up. The people don't pick it up. Okay, the people don't pick it up. And if Ford did that, they wouldn't sell any cars. And if Mattel, I don't know, I'm not so sure. They also said, they're the only country I've heard, they said, well, we're going to go counter. We're going to try going someplace else. That's okay. Let him go, and we'll put 100% tariff on his toys, and he won't sell one toy in the United States, and that's their biggest market. I heard that. I mean, I watched this guy talking about how I'm going to go counter. I said, well, I wouldn't want to have him as an executive too long. The Ford people I know very well, what they're doing is negotiating with us by saying that. But we don't think that's going to happen. Look, I put out a truth today, and it said that gas is down, gasoline is down, energy is down, groceries are down, eggs are down. I mean, eggs, thank you very much, but eggs are down. When I came in the first week, you guys hit me with eggs. I said, what the hell happened with eggs? Eggs were up like 170% and going up, and they said don't order any for Easter. And we were thinking about ordering plastic eggs like everybody was doing. And Brooke did a fantastic job, agriculture. Brooke did a fantastic job. And we had hundreds of thousands of eggs out here on the lawn just 2 weeks ago at Easter. But you take a look at the cost. Energy's down. Even interest rates are down. Now, if the chairman of the Fed, Jerome, if he would lower interest rates like China did, like I think UK did, but like numerous other countries have done, it's like jet fuel. It would be great. But he doesn't want to do it. I think he doesn't want to do it. Probably he's not in love with me. I think that's right. It's sort of a crazy reason, but that's the way life is. Anybody in his position would be like jet fuel. But even without that, we're doing well. But remember this, I've watched you people reporting over the last few months that if we do this, prices are going to go through. Well, groceries are down. All of this stuff is down. Lumber is down. Oil is gone to, we have that thing broke 60, right? $60 a barrel. And $1.98, $1.99 in some cases. And heading in that direction. No, I think it's been amazing, actually. And what that's good for, it gives the consumer more money, and it gives them a better life. Because we just came out of the worst inflation, in my opinion, in the history of our country. They say 48 years. But Biden really screwed it up. He screwed up energy. And he also he spent too much money. He was spending it on, a green new scam. And that's like throwing the money. See that beautiful window behind? Take money, throw it right out that window. Because it's the same thing. He spent $10 trillion. He wasted it. Not only was it bad, it was a negative. It wasn't even like it helped a little bit. It was a real negative. And then on top of it, they let 21 million people into our country without any identification, anything. Just let them in. It's very, very sad. Well, we'll do one or two more.
Go
ahead. Who are you with?
I'm with the Daily Telegraph. Now, you know me from another
I do.
How concerned are you about the UK's reliance on China? Chinese money in the money market, Chinese exports.
We're not concerned.
Is that something that came up
honestly, I'm not concerned about anything. If I was, I wouldn't even be here right now. If I was concerned about anything, and it wouldn't be that, but I wouldn't be here right now. No, we're not concerned. We're going to have, I believe, a very good relationship with China and a fair relationship, and it'll get bigger and it'll grow. It'll grow. As an example, if they open up the country, that'll be the best thing China ever did for itself. They don't know that yet because, it's been a different system. But that'll be the greatest thing that ever happened to China. The people will be happier. They'll buy for less. They'll see things that they never saw before, and they'll be buying them. And it'll really create great long-term peace.
And if I could ask one of the Agriculture Secretary, actually, there's a lot of concern about chlorinated chicken, the import of hormone-treated beef. Has that question been addressed, resolved in these talks, or is that something for the continuing negotiations?
Well,
James.
I would just say that it's very clear, and we have in the heads of terms that we are going to discuss all of these types of issues, and obviously the importing country, whether it's us or them, you got to follow the rules on those types of things. But our point is the rules need to make sure that they are based on science, and that's our expectation. We know the UK believes that too, so we want to come to an accommodation. We want the consumers in each country to be able to choose what they want and give them the information that they want.
And we have an incredible EPA led by Administrator Zeldin that is on this. So the talks continue, but we are very, very confident in our products, and what the president has done to open up the markets is unprecedented for these farmers here in America. Thank you.
Message from Wall Street as they watched this. You saw the stock market decline sharply after Liberation Day, and it's rallied back since then.
Well, now it's going to really rally because, don't forget they said this is all a pipe dream. And this was a tough one. This is, somebody would say, well, this is easy. This is much tougher, I think, than any other deal because they've been at it for so many years, decades, trying to make this deal. And it's very conclusive, and it's a great deal, and it's a very big deal, actually. And no, this is just the beginning. We're going to be having conferences, or at some point we won't have, we'll just put out a statement that we just signed this country, that country. And after a number of these are done, nobody has enough people to do it. We're just going to put out X country is going to pay this, and if they open up, they're going to do this and that, and they're going to be open up. Everybody wants to be here. I say this is where they want to be shopping. They want to shop in this country because we have the consumer, and we have the consumer like nobody else. And if this country went bad, the whole world would go bad. But we really saved it from going bad. Yeah, please.
So can I ask you about the air traffic control issue? Are you looking at getting new software?
I'm glad you asked me about it because I'm just going to be talking to now the heads of the airlines and everything else. So I was all set before we had the rigged election to give out a brand new gorgeous system to one company that was going to do the whole thing, one of the best companies in the world that you know very well. There are 3 or 4 of them that do it. And when they took over, Buttigieg, who has no clue, he drives to work on his bicycle with his, in all fairness, with his husband on the back, which is a nice, loving relationship. But he didn't have a clue. This guy didn't have a clue. And he's actually a contender for president. Between him and Crockett, you can have that party. But he didn't know what he was doing. And he took what they call dry systems where you have wires in the earth, buried in the earth or whatever. And then you have the open air systems where you have satellites, and you can't mesh them. Anybody would know that if you went through about 2 months of study in school, if you studied that kind of thing. And he did. They spent tens of billions of dollars trying to take old, broken equipment and merging it into existing new equipment with brand new equipment. It's one of the greatest. They spent like $40 billion. And what they did is they made it worse because it doesn't work together. You can't make it work together. If you have a satellite system, you need satellite. If you don't, they had all these different technologies, some of them 50 years old, and they're trying to mesh them in. And they end up spending twice the money they should have. You could have bought a whole new system. So we have a very good guy who you all know, Sean Duffy, is head of transportation, and I've given him a 10-minute lesson in buying, and he's become really good. And we are now in the market to buy a gorgeous, brand new system. The helicopter that crashed into the plane at 400 feet, it shouldn't have been. What would have happened is all sorts of bells and sirens would have been going off 3 minutes before that accident happened, if you had the right equipment, but they didn't. And the new equipment is unbelievable what it does. You can have, I was going to say something, but you always, in my opinion, you always need pilots. I want pilots. But you wouldn't even have to have pilots. This system is so incredible what they can do. But we have a system that's obsolete. And what they did is the worst. They tried to combine the really old, broken stuff with the new stuff, and you can't combine it, and anybody should have known. So Biden, do you think Biden figured this out? I don't think so, fellas. Do you think he has any clue? He doesn't know what the hell's happening. So here's the story. We're going to be buying a brand new, it's going out to bid very soon, brand new state-of-the-art system that will cover the entire world. I'll give you an example. When my pilot, now I have military pilots, but prior to that I have very good pilots, great pilots. They would land, and I won't tell you which country, but they would use the system of another country. They wouldn't even use the system of the United States. So if I'm landing in New York or Florida or Tennessee, they're using a system from another country. I said, why is that? And they were, they're not into business, but they're just saying, our system doesn't work, sir. And I said, boy, that's pretty sad. But we were all set to give it out to, look, you have a Raytheon and you have different companies like that, numerous companies.
Wow.
And you have companies that would do it, like an IBM, as an example. And you give out one deal, one contract. They gave out hundreds of contractors. They had diggers. They had non-diggers. They had people that focused on satellites. They had hundreds of different contracts. One contract where one guy is controlling everything. If you need a trench, then they dig a trench. But if you don't dig the trench, they don't blame you. What happens is you don't dig it, then they say we want a cost overrun. Now, we have it all set, and we're going to be doing it. We would have done it, except that the election took a little strange turn. But the second one didn't. That was too big to rig. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Whoa. This man right here, yo.
President of the United
Thank you for tuning into the live show. So, what do you guys think about the American Pope from Chicago?
United States and First Lady Melania Trump.
Okay, what's going on there?
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. It's a great honor. We just made a very big deal with the UK, United Kingdom, on trade, which is shocking everybody. They said, oh, gee. And we just had the Ukraine. We just were notified that Ukraine just approved our big rare earth deal, which could be worth trillions of dollars. A lot. And overall, we're doing very well. We have a lot of things happening. We have a very big conversation in Switzerland taking place this weekend with China. Has anyone heard of China recently? Yes. And they want to make a deal very badly, and I wouldn't be surprised, but we have tremendous things happening on trade, the likes of which we've never seen before. The UK deal was a big one. They've been trying to make that deal for 25 years. They've been unable to do it. And we were able to do it, and it was really something special. The Prime Minister was on the phone and the whole thing. It was really great. And now they're negotiating various other very, very big, strong trade deals. Nobody thought it would be possible, Claudia. Look at our great Congresswoman over there. Nobody thought it would be possible. Look at, wow, we have senators. We have the whole ball game here, huh? Hi, Joni. So with that, I'll thank everybody for being here. This is a special building, a very, very special place. There's nothing like it anywhere in the world. No matter where you go, they come in, they say, wow, this is something. And I want to give a very big welcome to the White House and all of the people that come here and they love this place, but most importantly to the military moms, by far the most important. Right, JD? It's still a few days early, but let me be the first to wish everybody a very happy Mother's Day. It's going to be a great Mother's Day, and very happy. I had a great mother. I had a mother. She was such an angel. She could be very tough, I will say, but she had her tough moments, some difficult moments she had, Pam, but overall, very, very good, I will tell you. I had a great one. I especially want to thank one of the best moms that I know that I've ever seen. Sometimes she's almost too good. She is so good with Barron, but he's grown up strong and nice, and he's a good boy. He's a good student, so I want to thank you. You've done a great job. Thank you, honey. Great First Lady. And thanks as well to Marine veteran, Vice President J.D. Vance, and to Second Lady Usha Vance. a mother of 3 young children. And we know that they're going to do very well in school because they were the 2 top students at Yale Law School. So genetically, they should be in good shape, right? They're not going to say, gee, Mom, I can't figure this out. But also with us is Attorney General, special person, by the way, Pam Bondi. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam. And Secretary Hegseth's wonderful wife, Jennifer. Jennifer? Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dan. And Press Secretary Caroline Levitt. Hey, she's become a star. Where's Caroline? Look at I don't know, that face. She's become a big star. Don't ever leave us, you know? Don't ever leave us. Thank you also to Senator Joni Ernst, a very good person, friend of mine. Thank you very much. Very military person, too. Great representative of the military. And also Representatives Claudia Tenney and Marionette Miller Meeks, and you are right here. Where are you? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. All of our American service members are heroes, and our military mothers are doubly so. It's really doubly so what you have to go through. You make them great. You really do. You make people great. Each of the women here today has made extraordinary sacrifices for family and country. You've endured time away from your children. You've endured time away from everything. You've missed birthdays and holidays. You've missed so much, but you wouldn't trade it for the world. I know that. You wouldn't trade it for the world. As for spouses of our service members, we're never forgetting the burdens that you bear when your loved ones are deployed and the sacrifices you have to go through. As military moms, you make these sacrifices in your families so that all of our families can be safe and be free. Our country is strong and respected because you choose to live the life of service, and you have done that. Incredible people. As your Commander-in-Chief, let me take this opportunity to salute you and to thank you on behalf of every single American. Every single one respects you and loves you. Thank you. And represented in this room are the nation's finest Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. I love Space Force, you know. I have a special little feeling for Space Force. When I did it, they said, you're kidding, and now we're #1 in space by a lot. We were getting decimated in space, but now we're #1 by a lot. I was very proud of that. First time in 78 years that we had a new force. Coast Guard and Marines, I especially want to thank those of you who support the First Lady and me every day, including the military and social aides here and in the White House. Incredible support. In this room are crew members of Air Force One, said to be the best pilots in the world. I don't know. Where are you? Raise your hands. I want to get ready. We're going to take a little trip this weekend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Said to be the best. You better be the best because I'm traveling with you. Nurses from the White House Medical Unit, musicians from our great military bands. They do such beautiful work. When we have dignitaries, they come around. They're as good as anybody in the world. You can go to the Philharmonic of any place, and they're as good as anybody. And so many others, dedicated and devoted service members. You all do an outstanding job, and you should take tremendous pride in what you're doing and what you do. I'm pleased to report that since November, enlistment numbers for every branch of the armed forces has surged to the highest levels in 48 years. Can you imagine? Now, I do want to say that during the campaign, I used it all the time because it was good to use. I use whatever I have to do to win. You don't mind, do you? But I used it all the time. Your numbers were so bad. It was so embarrassing. Nobody was signing up. Nobody wanted to go in the armed forces. Nobody wanted to be a policeman. Now, just a short time later, that was in June, July, and then we started surging, and they started getting better and better, right, JD? But once November 5th took place, they had numbers signing up like we've never seen before, probably, maybe ever. But they say the minimum, you know, you're talking 30, 40 years. Nobody wanted to sign up. They weren't proud of our country. Now they're so proud of our country that we have the highest. We've attained the highest levels, I think, ever, and the police forces, too. And the firefighters, I never forget the firefighters. They're all doing great because people now love our country and they're proud of our country again. And it's only been really 3 months. It's not that bad, right? Right, honey? I think maybe they're like our first lady and our incredible Usha, second lady. I always have a hard time saying second lady. I'm not sure is that a compliment or not. I say, JD, do you like me calling her the second lady? I don't know. That's the way it's been. She is a great person, great person. We used to have shortages. Now we have waiting lists because of all of this great spirit that's really devolved. It's been incredible. So as we celebrate military mothers today, we look forward to an incredible future for the United States Armed Forces and for our country itself, and for those great service members and for all of you who love them so much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce that very special woman that I talked about, our great First Lady, and she's loved by all. I just walked by the Rose Garden, and that is the most beautiful thing. We saw it yesterday. You know, she took a lot of heat. She did it. It was so gorgeous, and these people couldn't do that if they tried. And those flowers were blooming. I said, how the hell, two weeks ago, this is like beautiful green, but it was not, and now it just happened so quickly. But you did some job. Thank you very much, honey. Come on up.
The ultimate intro. Woo!
It's okay. No worries. Welcome. And thank you
Love
very
in
much for
Tokyo.
your kind words.
This is Romeo and Juliet right here. You know?
Motherhood. The life-changing event that makes women invincible and exposed at the same time. It's remarkable, really, that my son's life creates unimaginable, unpredictable concerns and thrills for me, even until this day. All caring mothers understand this rare feeling. Nothing against fathers, of course. But in my opinion, and I'm sure everyone in this room agrees, only a mother can grasp this particular point. Military mothers and America, together, have developed an extraordinary parallel journey. They are filled with stories of personal sacrifice, determination, loss, and healing. Certainly, only military mothers have experienced this level of grace and resilience of American life. And finally, aging. A sudden shift in family dynamics. An unexpected positioning change in life when caretakers become the caregivers. If this has happened within your family, you understand the precious nature of motherhood. Here now, in the White House, at this pivotal moment, I urge you to prioritize your well-being. Nurture yourself, for your strength is the bedrock of a brighter future for our children. By caring for ourselves, we empower the next generation to thrive. Together, let's build a legacy of resilience and hope. Your journey matters. Embrace it. And indeed, the sacred strength of women is a profound force. With unwavering love and nurturing wisdom, we have the ability to inspire, uplift, and shape the future hearts of our children. This power, rooted in compassion and resilience, is a beacon of hope that lights the way for generations to come. Let us unite to honor the beauty of motherhood, champion the grace of our journey, and inspire those who follow. A mother's love and wisdom empower our children to flourish, instilling in them the courage to reach their full potential. Motherhood. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Man, This man won in life, yo. Let's take away the fact that he's the 45th and the 47th. Take all that away. He still won in life. He won in life, yo. All right, JD Van.
Intensifying deadly conflict in Kashmir tops our world lead today. Today, explosions and a total blackout in Jammu, an Indian-administered city in the hotly contested Himalayan region, while officials in Pakistan claim the military shot down Indian drones across the country and killed dozens of Indian soldiers near the line of control. This afternoon, Vice President Vance weighed in. Take a listen.
India has its gripes with Pakistan. Pakistan has responded to India. What we can do is try to encourage these folks to de-escalate a little bit, but we're not going to get involved in the middle of a war that's fundamentally none of our business.
We're going to cover this now from India and from Pakistan. CNN's Nick Robertson is in Islamabad, Pakistan. CNN's Matthew Chance is in New Delhi. Nick, you visited the line of control recently. You hiked into Kashmir. What is the situation on the ground right now?
Yeah, right now along that line of control, there's intense shelling. People are beginning to flee the border area, an exodus, as some of the locals there are describing it. So that's pretty hot, pretty active. JD Vance describing it as a war. That's going to sound right to those people here. In the rest of Pakistan, 29 drones over the past 24 hours came over from India. They went to Karachi in the south. 4 soldiers, 4 military personnel injured in Lahore. That's the massive city, 30 million people, just 13 miles from the border with India. And just down the road from here, 10 miles away in Rawalpindi, where there's a massive cricket tournament going on, Foreign Minister saying the stadium there was hit by one of those incoming missiles. The country's on edge. The schools are closed here in Islamabad tomorrow. Major exam across the country are being cancelled in Punjab, along the east of the country here, border with India, of course. Schools all closed there. So there's a real feeling that this is rolling on in a way that the country has not experienced before. These drones, this is different. And as far as the sort of cross-border that Pakistani officials here are telling us about what the Indian government is saying on their side, they're saying India is mounting a phantom defense. So not just drones, not just rockets, not just artillery, not just gunfire, the war of words ratcheting up too.
And Matthew, Indian officials say schools in Punjab, just south of Kashmir, will be closed for the next 3 days. It sounds as though India and Pakistan are prepared for the possibility of even more escalation.
Yeah, it does sound like that. You're right. Schools in Punjab are going to be closed for the next few days, as are schools in Indian-administered Kashmir and universities as well. Also, the Indian government has cancelled all leave for civil servants in the country in preparation for what it says is a potential emergency response. And so that all gives that impression that the country is sort of bracing itself for further escalation within the past couple of hours. You mentioned it already, but you know, we were hearing these reports. We can't go there ourselves, unlike Nick over there in Pakistan. But we're hearing reports that the city of Jammu, which is one of the main cities in Indian-administered Kashmir, has been plunged into darkness. There have been explosions in the skies over the city. It's not quite clear what exactly has been going on, but there have been repeated drone strikes and aerial strikes against locations inside India, at least reported by the Indian authorities. India has since then accused Pakistan of striking 2 military bases in Indian-administered Kashmir and one in that neighbouring state of Punjab as well. And so, yeah, you're right. Look, tensions incredibly high on both sides of the border, Jake.
Back with more in our world lead and the conflict between India and Pakistan. And joining us now, Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S., Rizwan Saeed Sheikh. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. So U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke separately with top officials from India and top officials from Pakistan today. The State Department says Rubio told your Prime Minister, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, to, quote, take concrete steps to end any support for terrorist groups. This comes as India is accusing Pakistan of harboring terrorist groups. What is your response?
Well, in this heavily securitized history of this region, where the two countries have actually fought 3 wars, and the history has expressed itself in a security idiom, presumptuous pretexts like the Pahalgam attack having taken place from Pakistan without a shred of evidence, I think is preposterous. And nobody in this situation, in this region, which has a nuclear capability, wants to set a template of going for attacks, aggression, provocative aggression that has been taking place over the past 48 hours. Actually,
so stop
more,
fight.
Started by India,
Stop fighting.
escalated by India. It's the third night. Pakistan has exercised its right to self-defense. But basically, this is not the kind of simplified version of the security situation in the region that I think the world wants to see. So whatever has to be said has to be supported by evidence. And Pakistan, at the leadership level, has certainly offered to conduct impartial inquiry, independent inquiry, neutral inquiry, and we would be participating in it.
So Pakistan has called for this investigation, as you note. There's this little-known militant group or terrorist group called the Resistance Front. It's linked to Islamist extremists, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and this group claimed responsibility for the attack on social media, though local reports also say they walked it back. Do you know which group was responsible for the terrorist attack that killed 26 tourists on April 22nd in the Indian-controlled part of Kashmir?
Well, the 26 tourists killed in the Indian illegally occupied part of Jammu and Kashmir were basically an attack that took place 230 kilometers plus from the line of control. So we are asking for inquiry because we want to know. Why would we know? If had we known, why would we ask for inquiry? And just going ahead and exercising provocative aggression on an arch rival is something that Pakistan has bearing with a degree of restraint thus far. But as we were pointing out that we would not be the ones going for escalation, India did. Now the responsibility for de-escalation is on India, but there are constraints on restraint. Pakistan reserves the right to respond back. There is enough pressure from our public opinion on the government to respond, and respond we will, because this aggression has been going on now for too long.
Earlier today, CNN interviewed the Indian ambassador to the United States. Take a listen to what he said.
When we did this day before yesterday, our assumption was that we have completed what we set out to do ourselves vis-a-vis the terrorists. We, from our perspective, had brought a certain finality to it, but it was, of course, subject to whether Pakistan has brought finality to it. Pakistan chose to escalate it further. Now it's duty-bound for us to respond to that.
They say they were responding to the terrorist attack that killed 26
there is no situation like responding to the terrorist attack by attacking a sovereign country. Is that a template that the international community would want to set going forward? Without
I'm just
any
saying what they say. They say
yes. I mean, they can say what they want to say, but attacking Pakistan and expecting us to sit back like sacrificial lambs and not responding is something that they shouldn't even have thought of. And whatever is being done, it's the third night, has on each night been initiated by India. And Pakistan has only been responding in self-defense. Our civilians have been killed, 30 plus civilians, 57 plus casualties. What kind of terrorist infrastructure they were attacking? Civilian lives have been lost. Why did they attack a cricket field? Where is the terrorist infrastructure expected in a cricket field?
Is there any conversation going on at all between India and Pakistan right now?
I think there have been contacts at the level of NSAs, but then this escalation, both in terms of the actions that have been taken and in terms of the rhetoric that is coming out, has to stop. We do not expect lectures from a regime that is operating on the basis of Hindutva philosophy. I mean, that is preposterous. I mean, look at the record of India. They have hegemonistic designs for the region. Whatever they have been doing in Sri Lanka, in Nepal, why is that this is the only country which has problem with every other country in the region?
Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, says that Pakistan needs to, quote, take concrete steps to end any support for terrorist groups. You don't think you need to?
Well, what terrorist groups? Pakistan followed the FATF requirements. All those structures that were there have been dismantled with a degree of finality. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten out of the grey list under the FATF arrangement. So what, I mean, without evidence, how can just you finger point and then start an aggression in a nuclear neighborhood? How responsible is that? I mean, and what kind of precedent we are setting in this kind of a neighborhood situation?
Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, Rizwan Saeed Sheikh, we appreciate you coming here and taking our questions. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And we all just leave in peace. Someone must fight. Like,
deal or no deal? President Trump today making a major announcement with the United Kingdom saying that the U.S. and the U.K. have agreed on the framework of a substantial trade deal. That said, we should note it is not quite a fully fleshed out deal exactly, at least not yet. It is quite light on specifics, with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying that the details need to be ironed out. According to U.S. and U.K. officials who previewed the deal for CNN, it leaves in place the existing 10% universal tariffs that Trump placed on virtually all goods coming into the U.S. Still, apparently what has been negotiated creates something of a concrete pathway to a broader trade pact, which could offer some relief from these high tariffs threatening serious damage to the U.S. and global economies. The New York Times White House correspondent Maggie Haberman's in town. We're always lucky to have her when she's here. Thanks for joining us, Max. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Trump has one trade deal done-ish. He loves to announce things. He still has dozens and dozens more deals left to get done. Today, he said he's working on 3 of them right now. What sort of headspace is he in? How much pressure did he feel like he needed? How much pressure did he feel to make this call and announce something, given the fact that they've been saying for more than a week that they're right there about to announce something?
Look, in terms of headspace, he's very happy with what they put out today. But it is notable, as you said, it has been a while since the pause went into effect and they were talking about trade deals coming quickly. The big question is going to be the China talks this weekend. But they are feeling as if this is a signal to other countries that there will be relief for them on tariffs if they forge some kind of a deal. This was low-hanging fruit. This was, I would say, actually something the Biden administration could have had in terms of a trade deal with the UK, and they just didn't want to for a variety of reasons. The UK has been eager for a deal, too. There is not a trade deficit with the UK. It says a trade surplus. So it's a little different than the other countries in question here. But this is good news for the administration as they are trying to find a path to lower some of these tariffs on other countries.
Today in the Oval Office, the British ambassador to the U.S. injected some British humor, understated, into the announcement. Take a listen.
Thank you very much indeed also for that very typical 11th hour intervention by you with your phone call to the President, demanding even more out of this deal than any of us expected. So thank you for that. The Prime Minister was delighted, obviously, to take that call late at night.
You know, you really can say anything if you have a classy British accent, I suppose. British Ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, joins us now. Mr. Ambassador.
But the point about the phone call was that he was interrupting the Arsenal game, that the Prime Minister is an ardent fan, and he was with friends looking at this crucial game, which I'm afraid they lost. And then the President comes on and says, hey, how about doing a little bit more in this trade deal?
Well, you know, and I'm sure President Trump loved it because he got more out of the deal than he would have gotten otherwise, right?
He didn't get everything he wanted. Got a bit more.
A bit more. So Trump's tariffs have been somewhat unpredictable in nature. Are you and the Prime Minister confident that it will continue relatively smooth sailing until there's actually a final deal signed?
I think we are quite confident. I mean, it is a deal. It is an agreement. It's one which, frankly, a lot of American farmers and manufacturers will gain quite a lot from. Nothing wrong with that. But we will also gain in Britain. So it's a fair deal. It was started off in life as a sort of fairly tactical response to Liberation Day, the president's tariffs. But then it built into a more substantial deal. And I think that what we have now is a foundation, first of all, for doing more and creating even more market access as these talks go on, but also, I hope, opening the door to a longer-term technology partnership between the United States and the UK.
JP Morgan said that the scope of this proposed deal appears limited as of now because U.S. tariffs on the UK are expected to remain higher than they were before Trump's announcement on April 2nd. And the economic benefit to the UK will be small. Are you worried about that at all?
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with JP Morgan?
Conclusion.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the sectoral tariffs on autos, steel, aerospace, in time pharma, they've been brought right down for Britain. And that's really important. We had a big car company, Jaguar Land Rover, that was facing, by next week, huge layoffs of their workforce in the West Midlands in Britain. And this deal has saved those jobs. So that's a pretty big achievement in my view, and I'm very pleased that the president has signed off on it.
I have a Land Rover, you'll be happy to hear.
Good.
Trade deals take a long time.
You can replace it and get a newer version.
Well, they don't. Well, we can talk about that later. Trade deals take a long time, sometimes fully months, sometimes to fully hash out. Maybe sometimes even years. How long do you think it's going to take to formalize this one?
Look, what's agreed is not going to change. Mm-hmm. It's not going to fall away. Nobody's going to step back.
Out? I mean,
no. The point about it is this: that the sectoral deals will stick, come what may. Where I think we have a lot of potential is in further negotiating liberalization of trade, reducing or eliminating many tariff lines. Now, we're very ambitious on that in Britain, possibly even more ambitious than the US side, I don't know, but that's be the subject of a negotiation. We think there are huge opportunities for business, for employment, for economic growth. We want to make both our economies great again in both the United States and the UK. And we can do that by liberalizing more trade, as long as it's balanced, as long as there's a sort of equal benefit on both sides. The problem with trade at the moment, internationally, especially with China, is that they produce vast quantities of goods and then just expect the rest of the world to sort of suck it up. And that's terribly imbalanced. Now, that's not the case between Britain and the United States. So we start from a good foundation, but we can build on it and liberalize further.
How is the relationship between the Trump administration and the Starmer administration? And I ask that because obviously the Liberal Party is more similar to the Democratic Party in this country. It's no secret that Nigel Farage and other more conservative figures in the UK are Trump fans. Obviously, your Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has had some impolitic things to say about President Trump, calling him a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath back in 2018.
I know, but everyone went in for this sort of hyperventilation in the past about Mr. Trump. I did too. I'm afraid it comes with the turf, but we've all moved on, I'm glad to say. Look, Keir Starmer and President Trump are not cut from the same cloth.
Right.
Politically, they're not. However, what's more important than that is that our national interests overlap and converge very considerably in the way we see the world and we see the threats, but the challenges that we've got to address. But also at a personal level, they get along. Yeah. I mean, they talk to each other very straightforwardly, very naturally. I don't know whether they would go down to the pub or go on holiday together or whatever.
Well, Trump doesn't drink, but I take your point.
Well, he can have a lemonade. But I just think that when they're talking about policies and serious matters in the world, they do see eye to eye. And that's what's important.
President Trump announcing a new trade deal with the United Kingdom today. Trump calling it a great deal for both nations. And it's one the White House says will bring billions to American companies. Details do remain scarce, and that is because
you can't even comprehend it. Just have millions. No, billions.
There's still a lot of details to be worked out here. CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich with us now from New York. All right, what's in this deal, or should we say the framework of a deal, Vanessa?
Yeah, one deal or one framework down, over 100 to go. But this is a deal that was worked out with a key ally of ours, the United Kingdom. This is a country that the U.S. actually has a trade surplus with, meaning that the UK buys more from us than we get from them. But the president really in the Oval Office was promising that there was more to come, that this was just the beginning. Listen to what he said earlier today.
Today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade that my administration has been negotiating over the past 4 weeks. With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade. The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports.
And so more to come on this deal with the UK, but he's also saying more deals to come in general with other countries. But specifically in this deal, here's what we know so far. There's about $5 billion in market opportunity for farmers and rancher producers, so much so that the UK is now agreeing to buy beef from the United States, something that they have not done previously. This is critical because farmers are losing a lot of money because China is not buying our soybeans right now because of those high tariffs. Also, the first 100,000 cars that come into the United States from the UK only getting a 10% tariff, not that 25% tariff. And then the US and the UK is now creating a sort of trade union for steel and aluminum where those items will be tariff-free. And then Rolls-Royce engines and other plane parts coming into the U.S. will not have tariffs on them. But Brianna, this is important because this is a framework that maybe other countries can look to, trying to understand what the president is looking for in these deals. As we know, the countdown is on to when that 90-day pause on those higher reciprocal tariffs run out. Other countries are probably watching this and starting to think about what they may be able to negotiate with the United States to make sure that they stave off those higher reciprocal tariffs that are set to go back into effect in July. Brianna?
Trade deals are coming through. All right, Marco Rubio is cracking down pro-Hamas agitators. Okay, Marco Rubio. Man, this dude.
Wow, they've got a beat going, but there's a lot of hate in that room right now. They hate Jewish Americans, and...
Wait. This is Columbia University? What?
The state of Israel, the Jewish state of Israel. A lot of hate on that campus. Some 100 masked anti-Israel protesters stormed Columbia University's campus in the first major protest since last spring. So we've seen this mounting. It's getting bigger now. This is one of the largest we've seen. They took over a part of the main library where students were studying for final exams. So they better really make sure that they contain themselves, because if you hurt one of those students, just think about that for a second. They're not thinking straight. Those protesters, this is not protected speech. This is not civil disobedience. This is hands-on violence. Hands-on. Security officers attempted to hold the line as that mob attempted to occupy that building. We have seen this before. The NYPD then moved in at the request of the university. I have lots of questions about why it took so long, but at least they got there. Police arrested around 80 people after students refused to identify themselves or leave the building. So you know they needed our officers there. The protests escalated and spilled out of the university gates and onto the streets, where police officers used riot gear to control that mob. The Trump administration, which has been cracking.
Wait, like, are these people getting paid to do stuff like this? Because you cannot be this stupid.
Down on campus anti-Semitism took swift action. Secretary of State Marco Rubio with this: we are reviewing the visa status of the trespassers and vandals who took over Columbia University's library. Pro-Hamas thugs are no longer welcome in our great nation. In focus now, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Republican of New York and House Republican leadership chair, is with me on the Mez in person. Thank you for being here. Your first response to what we saw unfold.
It is absolutely disgraceful, and it is more, unfortunately, of what we've seen at our quote-unquote most elite institutions. This is why President Trump's action to defund places like Columbia, places like Harvard, who have refused to protect students on campus. We need to have a zero-tolerance policy for anti-Semitism, but also for violence, riots, and destruction of property. Think about this, Harris. They're heading into final exams. This is a library where students are studying to prepare for final exams, where the focus is on academics. And yet what you're seeing at Columbia, which has been fueled over many years because of failure of leadership at the university, is that they run roughshod. So I want to thank NYPD and law enforcement,
Yes.
but we need to hold these schools accountable for their failure to address this.
Well, look, there has been some talk this morning, and I have this question too, and I ask it. We're waiting for the university to say that it is now time to call the police. If you are a Jewish student in that library, you don't feel safe. That's your first clue. We need help. A, why did it take the university so long? And I don't have the minute count, but we can just watch the video live. Like, police were standing out. They wanted to help.
Yes.
So what do we need to do to get these universities to pay attention that the president means business?
What we have seen, particularly since October 7th, the Hamas terrorist attacks against Israel, and then the failure of universities, is that these schools are not going to save themselves. These presidents of these universities, these administrators have failed to meet their responsibility to protect the safety of students on campus. There have been thousands of Jewish parents who have reached out to my office over the course of these past few years that they are having to hire private security. They're having to have their students, their children escorted from class to class. This should never be happening. So the only way we do this is we need to revoke the taxpayer funding. These schools are not entitled to taxpayer dollars, and they're not meeting their federal requirement to protect the civil rights of all students on campuses.
So true. Well, places like Harvard don't need that money. I mean, we give them $9 billion. They have benefactors that give more than that.
Well, the reality of Harvard is they do need that money, and they feel entitled to that money, but they should not be entitled. It is our responsibility as members of Congress to be good stewards of U.S. taxpayer dollars. And when that money is going to prop up anti-Semitism, when that money is going towards un-American values, that's when it's very important that we revoke that.
Last quick question for you. Are you concerned about who we've let into the country and what it looks like when people begin to do this quote-unquote protesting? It's growing out of hand, not just the universities, but it can go someplace else.
These are not protests, Harris. These are criminal acts. This is violence. This is rioting. This is disruption of property. And we've seen many of these individuals are on foreign visas. I fully support revoking those foreign visas and deporting. And the steps that have been taken by President Trump and Secretary Rubio are tremendous. We need to keep doing that. It also broadens the question as to why are we not focused on educating American students? You've seen the percentage of foreign students increase. These are American institutions. Of course, we want to attract the best and brightest, but not un-Americans.
Representative Stefanik, thank you for being with me.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. This is getting wild, man. Everybody's just picking a side. Can't not live in unity. I don't understand why. Because you're right-leaning, you cannot have a conversation with a left-leaning person. You already fight. But, of course, that wasn't the case over there in that video. That was Hamas and Israel.
It wasn't a ghost. Joe Biden's back. The revenge tour's in full swing. First stop was the BBC. Today, The View. After a little trouble finding a seat, he called the country sexist.
Why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president's the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. Right. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this. She's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country and a woman of mixed race.
Biden just said he knew Kamala was going to lose. He said, of course she was going to lose. She's a woman. You saw what happened to Hillary. America's sexist. Biden went on The View and said, I told you so. You never should have staged the coup. I can't believe you thought Kamala was going to win, you idiots. Remember, he only endorsed her as payback to Barack after he got whacked. Kamala's whole campaign blew up on The View. Remember? She couldn't think of anything she'd do differently. Joe just went back to the scene of the crime.
There has been some reporting that you encouraged her for there to be no daylight between the two of you. First, is that true? And do you think in retrospect that she should have tried to differentiate all the wins that your administration had?
Well, look, first of all, I did not advise her to say that, number one. Like I said, I was vice president. I understand the role, number one. Number two, I think she was talking about wouldn't have changed the successes we've had, not opposed to that we wouldn't change anything at all. She has to be her own person, and she was. She was part of every success we had.
Biden did it again.
Okay, Biden.
He still won't let Kamala have any daylight between them. She's going to be running in 28, and Biden's going to be on a rocking chair saying, I taught her everything she knows. Then he says he shouldn't have stepped down.
Knowing what you know now, do you think you would have beat him?
Yeah, he still got 7 million fewer votes.
Yes.
There you go, okay? A lot of people didn't show up, number one. Number two, they're very close in those toss-up states. It wasn't a slam dunk.
None of this makes sense. If you thought you could have beaten him, why'd you step down? If you knew Kamala would lose, why'd you step down? Why exactly did you step down?
Former president you served under.
He didn't step down. He had to step down. The American people were like, yo, you got to go.
Barack Obama, George Clooney, a longtime supporter of yours, major Democratic donor, Chuck Schumer, your dear friend Nancy Pelosi also had expressed concerns about your ability to do the job for 4 more years. Can I ask what your relationship is with President Obama and how you address those concerns that they raised?
Well, look, I think that the only reason I got out of the race was because I didn't want to have a divided Democratic Party. It was a simple proposition. And so that's why I got out of the race. I thought it was better to put the country ahead of my interest, my personal interest. I'm not being facetious. I'm being deadly earnest about that.
If Biden knew Kamala was going to lose and he knew he was going to win, how is that putting country above party? If you're a Democrat, it's the opposite. It's putting party above country. What does Biden care if his party is divided if he beats Trump? If Trump's a dictator, like he says he was, why would Biden purposely lose an election? Now Trump's president and the Democrats are more divided than ever. This is why he went on The View. Any real journalist would have picked up on the flaws of that logic and say, Joe, what are you talking about? Finally, they got to the debate.
Well, you know what freaked everybody out was that debate.
Yep.
It wasn't a great night. It was a bad night.
Terrible night.
And everybody lost their mind. Why do you think people bought into it, especially the Democrats?
Well, first of all, we still were winning primaries. We were still doing everything. The Democratic Party at large didn't buy into it, but the Democratic leadership and some of the very significant contributors did. When I left the race, Kamala had hundreds of millions of dollars. She had the best organized campaign. I'm going to say something outrageous. I've not lost many debates in my life. I've been pretty good at doing that. I was sick.
Biden says the Democrat Party was still behind him. He just had the sniffles. Pelosi and donors didn't understand that. The big guy claims he was on track to win. His campaign operation was better than Trump's. And he handed Kamala the world's fattest war chest. And he says it's not his fault. He was just too successful. All he wants is a thank you. Jill was there, and she says Barack should have shown her husband a little more respect.
I went onto the stage after the debate. I mean, we all saw it. It was terrible. And so Joe looked at me and he said, I'll use screwed up. He said, he didn't say that. And I said, yeah.
We all know Joe Biden. We know what he said.
And I said, yeah, you did, Joe. But we have hundreds of people waiting for us. Put your shoulders back. Walk out there. You know.
Oh, my God. Who advised this? Oh, God, Jesus. Save me.
Be who you are. And we were not going to let 90 minutes of a debate define his presidency and all those years of service.
Jill just admitted her husband bombed the debate, but here's what she said right after.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the...
Everyone else who watched the debate saw a man who couldn't be president and who should never have been president. The ladies asked Joe all about the tell-all books, quoting insiders who said he was mentally unfit and the White House covered it up. Listen.
You are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, you know, think of what we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We went to work and we got it done. And you know, one of the things and
Alyssa, you know, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us. And they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, it was
why are you the person telling us how hard he worked? He's right there. Let him tell us.
Stop. It's the White House, and Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. You look at things today, give me Joe Biden anytime.
Dr. Jill just took over that interview like Belichick's girlfriend. What was that? And none of what she's saying is true. Jen Psaki said Joe never got up early once unless it was like really important. And they'd call lids at 4 o'clock and you'd never see him again. Remember the marks Joe had on his face from the sleeping machine? We saw that at noon. There were stretches where he didn't see the president in public for 3 to 4 days, sometimes a whole week. But Jill says he wasn't hiding.
I did not create a cocoon around him. I mean, you saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making speeches. He wasn't hiding somewhere. I didn't have him, you know, sequestered in some place. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Was that hurtful to you when they were describing you as Lady Macbeth and all of
Yes,
those?
it was very hurtful. It was very hurtful, especially from some of our so-called friends.
They say in Washington, if you want a friend, get a dog. Well, the Bidens got a dog and he bit everybody. Jill was running cabinet meetings, just like she was running this interview. Here's why.
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best health care in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world when you don't have that done?
The truth is, Joe can't talk, can't walk, and couldn't govern. No one wants to hear from him. One Democrat says this, I don't think he's reading the room at the moment. But the revenge tour isn't all about revenge. It's about money.
Biden Inc. has collapsed. All those Biden grandkids had a lavish lifestyle, which they very much liked. Hunter made hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Joe, as a former president, is not in a position to get the same kind of paid speeches, corporate boards, book deal. Biden Inc. needs a source of revenue. And Hunter does, even though he was pardoned and he's not going to prison, Hunter does not have great earning capacity. The reality that Biden Inc., the trough is empty, the spigot has shut down. They need a way to get back in the game to make big money.
Biden left office and the whole extended family suddenly went broke. And no one's paying his speaking fees, so the only way they can survive is write their own tell-all.
I'm writing another book.
Good.
Like 6,000 people are. I got to write a presidential memoir.
Oh, boy.
But they told me they had to do it within a year. No one's ever done one in a year.
Joe says, don't read those half dozen tell-alls from White House insiders. He says he's going to write his own book, and he's bragging it'll be done in a year, right in time for the midterms. The Democrats are going to love it. Jill was keeping a secret diary during her time as First Lady. Something about the Bidens and diaries. I don't know. And it's supposed to be explosive. Insiders say a Jill Biden book could be worth $30 million in a deal. And the Bidens just hired a crisis manager. They've been taking a beating with all these exposés. The next book that's about to drop supposed to be the most damaging. Jake Tapper's tell-all. He obviously didn't write it. He has a co-author. But it's the worst one yet. There's a battle going on over the party's legacy. They want to purge Biden from history, absolve themselves of any responsibility for the last 4 years. They say they had no idea Joe was that bad, and they had nothing to do with the cover-up. It was just a few people like Jill, Hunter, and Biden's Delaware guys. Biden saying, no, you're not taking me down. I was president. Best 4 years since FDR, and I'm not going down without a fight. Well, Donald Trump, he's about to give him a little push. The White House is looking to release the Her tapes. We've all read the transcripts, and it was no bueno. Now, if they come out, we'll all hear Joe, in his own words, not remember when he was vice president. Biden and his crisis.
Man, Jill need to take her man home. Just take your man home. You know, make him a great meal and just enjoy the sunset. Don't do this.
And a healthy person has 1,000 dreams. The sick person only has one. And right now, there's 60% of the people in this country who have only one dream. If they can make it through a day without pain, with energy, without having to take medications.
Goal is to make America healthy again. Let's bring in our guest, Dr. Marty Makary, Food and Drug Administration Commissioner, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Mehmet Oz, Administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and National Institutes of Health Director, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Secretary, this is unique in that you work with all these guys very closely, and it's a different scenario for HHS.
I actually had Tommy Thompson in this morning talking to me, who is the HHS who had my job under the Bush administration, and I was talking about my relationship with these gentlemen who are running the agency, running the major sub-agencies of HHS, and he said that nothing like that had ever happened in history. I say that I talk to them typically about 2 or 3 times a day. We're friends. We go to lunch together. We stay at each other's homes. We vacation together. And then, you know, we're aligned on, in our vision. Friendship is based upon shared values. And that's the strongest bond that holds people together. And in this, we all share a vision that's been a lifelong vision for all of us, which is to make our country healthy, to have evidence-based science, to have gold standard replicable science, and then use that to challenge what we have, this kind of bedrock system that is destroying our health, which is a complete misalignment of economic incentives and public health. Yesterday we met with the heads of all the biggest pharmaceutical companies, and I said, I want to live in a place where you can make money by making people healthy. And right now we're all aligned against each other. The healthcare system in this country is a bundle of perverse incentives that force people to do the wrong thing. And we've turned this country into a sick care system rather than a health care system. And all these people are the people who are going to change that.
I know you all have a lot of balls in the air, but I'd love to go down the row and just talk about the big thing that each of you are dealing with, working on. First, FDA. Marty?
Well, first of all, we want to focus the agency on cures and meaningful treatments. In the last administration, the #1 priority the commissioner stated was fighting misinformation, and the DEI staff ballooned out. We want to focus on cures and meaningful treatments. We believe in the letter and the spirit of Right to Try, and there's amazing stuff in the pipeline I've seen. We're talking about new treatments for stage 4 cancers, for neurodegenerative disorders, for diabetes that we've never seen before. Why does it take 10 years on average for drugs to come to market? Why are we blaming children for being sick and not looking at our food supply? Why are we thinking it's a willpower problem as we watch half of our nation's children with belly pain or attention deficit disorder or on medications? And can we use common sense and gold standard science both? And that's the charge that we have from Secretary Kennedy.
You've also obviously done the dyes recently, and we covered that extensively. There's this question about vapes coming over from China, and that they're really pervasive in our country, and kids with like video games and getting vapes, and they're dangerous. That falls under FDA.
Yeah, it does. These are devices that are designed to get kids addictive to playing a video game, and there's an inhalation port in the device. They're showing up at our borders. And what we have been doing is just sending them back. And so the Chinese manufacturers are just sending it to another port. It's called port shopping, and they all get in. They're laughing at us. So that's going to stop in this administration. We're not going to allow these devices to get in. We're going to confiscate them.
Mehmet, there's a lot of focus on Medicaid and Medicare, and it gets demagogued all the time that you're coming after it, that you're going to kill it, that you're going to cut it. What do you say to all that?
Our goal is to put health back in Health and Human Services. And under Secretary Kennedy, and that's why we're all here, we're laser focused on the broader picture, the more holistic picture. In the back of this wonderful theater that we're recording in now, there's a quote from Hubert Humphrey. The building's named after him. He's a Democrat. And he said it's the moral obligation of government to take care of those of us at the very dawn of our lives, children, at the twilight of our life, the elderly, and those living in the shadows. That's our focus. It's quality of care at all levels. And we're working together to make sure that happens. In every single scenario that we're looking at, we're increasing payment in Medicaid, putting more money in the Medicaid. Increasing. So the question is, how do you spend that money so efficiently that you stop throwing money at problems, but actually deal with the broader health needs? Addressing the fundamental reality that 70% of the money that CMS spends, and that's what Medicare, Medicaid, the exchanges, CHIP, 70% of the money we spend is on chronic illness. And we're not getting our money's worth. So for folks listening right now, it's your patriotic duty to be as healthy as you can, and it's our job to help you get there, make it easy to do the right things. At the same time, we've got to make wise decisions because we're stewards who have to protect the money for the population that Hubert Humphrey described.
Fiscal year 2024, largest percentage of improper payments, $54 billion Medicare, $31 billion Medicaid. Earned income tax credit was 15, SNAP was 10.5. But I mean, you're looking at 5 million in improper payments?
Billion.
That's an underestimate.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We have a war room now, to fight back against adversaries. And these aren't just small-time players. These are foreign governments, weaponized organized crime. And why are they coming after us? Because our budget is nearly $2 trillion if you include the monies that are spent that we direct but sometimes don't come out of our pocketbooks. But the direct budget just for CMS is $1.75 trillion. That's twice the defense budget. So there's a big target on our back, and folks are coming after it. And they're the kinds of things that should make you mad. It's USAID on steroids, frankly. I'll give you a couple examples. Almost 250,000 Americans found out by surprise because they got an IRS notice that they had gotten the Affordable Care Act insurance without knowing it. Why would you sign someone up without telling them they have insurance? Because brokers can steal the money. We have hundreds of millions of dollars spent on housekeeping. We have tens of millions of dollars spent on public unions getting free child care or student tuition or DEI programs. I have an obligation, all of us do, to protect the people that Humphrey was speaking about. And if we're not going to protect the most vulnerable, that's who they're stealing money from, then we're not doing our job. So we're going after, there's a new sheriff in town, and we're coming after folks in a very big way.
NIH, always looking to the next thing, but there are people concerned that funding is drying up. In the president's budget, FDA is spared, but there's $33.3 billion cut from HHS, $18 billion from NIH, $674 million from CMS. Does that affect you, and how do you portray that about what NIH is doing?
I mean, I think the key fact I look at for NIH is that the mission of the NIH is supposed to do research that improves the health and longevity of the American people. And since 2012, we've seen no increase in life expectancy in this country. In that sense, the NIH has not done its mission over the last dozen years. And in fact, NIH was involved in supporting research that may have actually led to the pandemic that we all just went through.
We'll speak to that for a second. Gain of function just signed this executive order the other day in the Oval Office. What does that mean to the average person? You can stop it on the U.S. side, but obviously it's happening around the world.
The U.S. is the primary state that sets the example for how to do this kind of work around the world. When the U.S. says, look, we're not going to allow scientists to play God, take viruses with cockamamie justifications, make them more transmissible, more deadly, that doesn't protect us against anybody, and it causes tremendous risk. And what the president did by signing this order is he said, no more. We're not going to have another lab-generated pandemic on my watch.
The Surgeon General nominee was supposed to be a hearing today on Capitol Hill. Dr. Nesheiwat was pulled. She's heading here to the HHS. What happened with all that?
What happened with her withdrawal? We talked to Dr. Nesheiwat. We're going to put her at a very good place here at HHS. Casey Means, we felt, was the best person to really bring the vision of MAHA to the American public. She has this unique capacity to articulate it. She's written a book that really mobilized, galvanized the movement. She is an extraordinary. She is excellence in everything that she's ever endeavored.
Obviously, she's come under her own criticism about some of the things she's advocated for. She never finished her residency, and she doesn't currently have an active medical license. But that's not.
She was the very top of her medical class at Stanford. She's during her residency, she won every award that she could win. She walked away from traditional medicine because she was not curing patients. She couldn't get anybody within her profession to look at the nutrition contributions to illness. And she said, if we're really going to heal people, if we're healers, we can't just be making our life about building new procedures. We actually have to figure out new approaches to medicine. Nice. And that's the kind of leadership that she's going to bring to our country.
And last thing on this, your former running mate weighed in today saying that she wasn't happy about this and said that you're somehow being controlled. Your decisions are being controlled. That's what she posted.
Listen, you guys sitting here, 4 people who were all canceled during COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
These people are, you've got the entire leadership of this agency is renegades who are juggernauts against convention and who are trying to look for truth no matter what the cost.
So nobody's
Casey is among those. Hey,
this man looks swole. He looks like he's been in the gym working out. All right, thank you for tuning into the live show. Y'all want to keep going or you want to call it a night? RFK looks like he's been in the gym, yo.
I think we're going to have a very good weekend.
Will you speak to Xi after the weekend talks?
I might, yeah, sure, depending on what Scott says. We Scott is doing certain countries and Howard's doing certain countries. I mean, I wish I had like 10 more of each. Then we could do them all at one time.
All right, joining me now is the aforementioned Howard, as in Commerce Secretary, Mr. Howard Lutnick, old friend. Howard, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it very much. Congratulations on the deal. That's point number one. And I just want to ask you, I know we could go through lots and lots of details, but the thought occurred to me, in this deal, you've got market openings for agriculture and metals like steel and aluminum, and automobiles, for example. Doesn't this reduce the need for supply chains coming out of China? Okay, and maybe you're going to have other countries, we'll get to that too. But doesn't this reduce the need for those Chinese supply chains where they've been impossible and they lie and they cheat and they steal and they don't enforce phase one deal that we did 4 or 5 years ago? This British deal opens the door to different new supply chains, doesn't it, Howard?
It does a little bit. Remember, we had balanced trade with the UK. When we do our deal with the European Union, that is top topic. Because remember, the European Union's got a $250 billion trade deficit with China, and they have a $235 billion trade surplus with us. So the Chinese just go through Europe to come at us, right? They come at us through Vietnam. You wouldn't think they come at us through Europe, but they do. But the British is really opening market, $5 billion of new opportunity for Americans to export to Britain, where we already had a balanced trade. And what we did is we helped them out, as you pointed out. We said, you know what? You can keep your auto industry. You can only go down to 10%. You can keep it. It's only 100,000 cars we import. And you know, we sell 16 million cars a year. So 100,000 is okay.
Are you handling the freight on the European Union? Because I know how hard that is. I was involved in that years ago. Obviously, Bob Lighthizer was our leader, but I was particularly involved in that stuff. They're impossible. And on top of everything else, they have a value-added tax. Are you handling the freight on the EU?
I am. In fact, I do virtually all the countries. Scott is obviously focused on China, and he does a few Asian countries with me. But basically, I'm the driver of the template together with USTR, right, Ambassador Greer. But I'm the driver of it. That's why we got this deal done, because we were able to move on cars. We were able to move on airplane parts, right, commercial airplane parts. We made a deal and said, you know what, Rolls-Royce engines can come into America tariff-free and get put on Boeing jets. That's perfectly fine. And what did they turn around and do? They turned around and announced they were going to buy $10 billion worth of Boeing jets on top of that. So this is the right kind of deal you want to do with a country, a friend, someone who's willing to open their markets. We help them. We're going to sell them beef, and they're going to buy less beef from other countries. So I think that's the way they balanced it. It's great for us. Remember, $5 billion of new opportunity to export and $6 billion of new tariff revenue into the United States of America to that External Revenue Service. Here we come. Here we come.
You know, on that point, we just had Joe Lavorgna on, and he's been calculating. You're running 45% ahead of last year on tariff revenues, right? Customs-related revenues. The run rate is $125 billion, but it may be more than that as these deals are actually put into place. Now, that's $125 billion is a nice piece of change. You get up to $175 billion or so, maybe. Those are good. You know, we could cut some taxes on that. We could slash some deficits on that. You follow? I mean, I hear Howard Lutnick. I don't know why this is so hard to understand. Fair trade, reciprocity,
you got it exactly right.
making some money on this deal. I mean, fair trade itself, let's level the playing field. Wall Street goes crazy. Wall Street Journal goes crazy. I don't know why this is so hard to understand, Howard. I listened to the president today. I watched you guys going back and forth. Why is this so hard? Why is this so hard to understand?
These guys, it's like the dark ages, Larry. They forgot how to do tariffs and fair trade. They think NAFTA, where you take the factory out of Michigan and Ohio and move it to Mexico, is a winning move. But that's not the winning move for GDP. We're going to cut the trade deficit. If we cut the trade deficit 25%, easy to do. That's 1 point GDP. You build a couple of trillion in factories, 2 points GDP. That's the President of the United States driving 3 points of GDP. And then, just like you said, if the average tariff rate for the world ends up being 15% on average, that's $450 billion a year. Now, Congress doesn't score that, because it's not their pen, it's the president's pen. But you know what's happening to our deficit, and you know what that's going to do to interest rates. It's going to drive them down, and we're going to deliver on Donald Trump's promise.
And look, folks are coming here to invest. I mean, president keeps talking about the buildup of investment. This is real. I mean, whatever the number is, 3 trillion, 4 trillion, I don't know. All I know is a big chunk of cash is coming to the United States. And a lot of American manufacturers are doubling up in the United States. And you're going to reward them in reconciliation with 100% expensing, including factories, which is fabulous. That gives them the incentives to build and expand in the United States. So, again, I don't know. I still don't understand what's so hard to understand here, how good this is going to be. If you implement it, and I'm going to ask you in a minute, but this is pro-growth. You're going to have reindustrialization. I hate to use that word. It's a little hackneyed, but that's what's going to happen. Reindustrialization.
Well, yesterday I met with the three biggest pharmaceutical companies, and they said the 15% manufacturing tax rate eliminates their reason to have their businesses anywhere else. They're going to build it here. They said $150 billion, just those three companies, $150 billion committed to building pharmaceuticals in America. I mean, this is the kind of move that is going to change the way America works, changes the way America feels about itself, and it's going to drive our economy. It's exactly the way you're talking about it. The tax rate plus, that 15%, the accelerated depreciation. The president understands business. He's talking to businessmen when he says that, and he's going to produce those kind of factory builds in America, and it's going to be impressive. And wait till you see the number coming out of the Middle East next week. If you think the president's exaggerating, wait till you hear the numbers coming out of next week. It's going to be wow.
Well, one thing, let's just talk about that for a minute. He mentioned today, almost as a throwaway, but he said, we're working on 3 more deals.
Lutnick's net worth is $3.1 billion. Damn. $3.1 billion. Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Right now, I assume you're engaged in those deals, you and Jameson and whoever, Scott. So, but really, is that going to come out of the Far East? Is it going to come out of Asia, or is it going to come out of the Middle East? Give us a sense of where these next deals are coming from, and how fast can you do it, Howard? Can you keep the momentum growing?
Well, okay, we're focused on the big countries, okay, top countries, like the UK was number 6. So we want to do a big country from Asia for sure, because we want to be geographic. We want to show people the structure of how it can done. We like the template idea. We like the form that people understand it, because it'll move the other guys quicker. But remember, giant countries, I don't want to go fast. I want to do it correctly. The president doesn't want to go fast. He wants to do the kind of deal we did today, where we said, look, this is just a win for America, and we figured out how to make it a win for them. So it's going to take a little more time than you think. But we could do a good deal tomorrow. But the question is, when are we going to do the best deal? And I think, like you saw, the president said today, last night he took my deal and he made it better. Last night he took my deal and make it better. So I always let the best deal maker in the world make the deal. I'm a smart guy. I work for Donald Trump. I'm going to let him be the closer every time.
Well, he's a good closer. You can create a deal, as I understand the British deal. You've got some important points, as you've outlined, the president outlined today, but it can grow. The British Prime Minister said it can grow. And I think that's very important. And I just wondered, is that itself a template approach to these other deals? You don't have to have everything exact. You know what you have, you know what the specifics are, but it can grow into something larger. Might make it easier to make these deals. I mean, am I reading you right on this, that this is the approach it's going to take?
Yes, it's exactly right. We're going to get the deals. So we're going to bring, let's say it's a country with a 25% tariff. They open up a lot of their lines. They give us, let's say, $20 billion in opportunity, or $25 billion in opportunity. We cut them to 15. And they say, look, we want to get to 10. We'd say, then you've got to open more things, or we've got to do this over here, or you got to invest in us. We'll lay out the way that they can get their tariff rate down, which is all good for the math of America. I mean, this is Donald Trump at his best, creating the opportunity for someone like me to go out and make the deals that are the best for America. Right. And, we've got the cards, the way Donald Trump says it, we've got the cards, and we're going to play them incredibly.
Yep. Everybody's saying, well, it's $3.1 billion. He made it this way, that way. That's what everybody always says about rich people. I never heard one person say, oh, that man is rich. Oh, God blessed him. They always say, well, he did that. That's why he's rich. It's never God blessed him. It's never, dear Lord, thank you for blessing that man. It's never that. It's never that. All right, J.D. Vance. Here we go.
Reacting to the big news today, Vice President Vance, the second Catholic VP in our history, congratulating Pope Leo XIV on X moments ago, writing this, quote, "I'm sure millions of American Catholics and other Christians will pray for his successful work leading the church. May God bless him." And here in Washington, just a bit earlier, I spoke with the Vice President about a range of topics, from what to expect in the months ahead for the economy, given the tariff discussions, to Elon Musk, to his status as President Trump's potential successor and whether or not he wants that job. Here's our interview. Joe Biden came out and did an interview yesterday. He said that the famous Zelensky Oval Office confrontation was, quote, beneath America. What would you say to the former president?
Well, I think it's rich for Joe Biden to comment on anything that we're doing when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, because, of course, under Biden's administration, Russia launched the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And if we wanted to take advice from anybody on foreign policy, especially foreign policy in Europe, it would not be Joe Biden. So I wish Joe Biden the best. I don't really care what he has to say about American foreign policy, because so much of what he actually did was a total disaster. If we just did the opposite of what Joe Biden did, I think we'd have one of the most successful foreign policy administrations in a very long time. So he can spend his time on the beach or doing whatever Joe Biden does. We'll continue trying to fix the problems that he created.
So sticking with Russia and Ukraine, yesterday you spoke with the Munich Security Conference here in D.C.
Yeah.
You said that Russia is essentially asking for too much in a deal to settle the war with Ukraine. So what do we do now? Do we walk away from this situation, or is it time to ramp up our military support for Ukraine?
Well, we'll see what happens, of course. But look, we knew that Russia would ask for too much because the Russian perception of the war is on the ground. They're winning. And of course, the Ukrainians would like to do a ceasefire, in part because things have not been going so well for the Ukrainians the last few months. And our attitude is we don't want Ukraine to collapse. We obviously want Ukraine to remain a sovereign country, but Russia can't expect to be given territory that they haven't even conquered yet. And that's one of the things that they put down in that initial peace plan. So I actually think it's progress that they're even talking at all, the Russians and the Ukrainians. I think it's progress that they're putting concrete peace plans on the table. But we knew that the Russians' first offer would be too much. We knew that they would ask for more than was reasonable to give. That's how negotiations often work. I'm not bothered by that. What would bother me is if we conclude that the Russians are not engaging in the negotiation in good faith. And if that happens, yeah, we're going to walk away. The president's going to say we're out of this thing. And what that's going to mean fundamentally, I think, is that both Russia and Ukraine are going to be left to settle this thing without the advice and without the mediation of the United States. I don't think that's good for anybody. I don't think it's good for us. I don't think it's good for Russia or Ukraine. But we can only lead these guys to the well. We can't force them to drink. And that's what the president has done. And I do think we've had some diplomatic breakthroughs. Again, the fact the Russians are offering a peace plan at all, that's a breakthrough. The fact the Ukrainians are offering a concrete proposal, that's a breakthrough. But we've got to try to get these sides a little bit closer together to achieve a lasting peace. We're not there yet. We'll keep working on it until we decide that we ultimately can't make any more progress.
And then you would walk away?
We would.
All right. You were in India recently, and there was some feeling that that might lead to one of the trade agreements announced. And we just heard the UK agreement with the United States.
Sure.
How concerned is the administration about the potential for nuclear war between India and Pakistan?
Well, look, we're concerned about any time nuclear powers collide and have a major conflict. What we've said, what Secretary Rubio said, and certainly the president has said, is we want this thing to de-escalate as quickly as possible. We can't control these countries, though. Fundamentally, India has its gripes with Pakistan. Pakistan has responded to India. What we can do is try to encourage these folks to de-escalate a little bit, but we're not going to get involved in the middle of a war that's fundamentally none of our business and has nothing to do with America's ability to control it. You know, America can't tell the Indians to lay down their arms. We can't tell the Pakistanis to lay down their arms. And so we're going to continue to pursue this thing through diplomatic channels. Our hope and our expectation is that this is not going to spiral into a broader regional war or, God forbid, a nuclear conflict. But sure, we're worried about these things. But I think the job of diplomacy, but also the job of cooler heads in India and Pakistan, is to make sure this doesn't become a nuclear war. If it happened, of course, it would be disastrous. Right now, we don't think that's going to happen.
All right, let's talk about the U.S. economy as some of your colleagues are heading to Switzerland to try to work a deal with China. Why was the UK deal first? Is it the sort of the model for other deals? And why not go to the EU first, a bigger deal?
Well, first, I think we have a great relationship with the United Kingdom. You know, the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister visited a few weeks ago. We had very good conversations with them. I think they were very responsive. I mean, look, President Trump has said very simply, all he wants at a lot of these trade negotiations is fairness, is reciprocity. He wants other markets to be as fair to American workers, frankly, as America has been to these foreign workers for decades, in some cases generations. And the United Kingdom was very willing to work with us. I think we had a great rapport with them. They were very open to hearing our concerns. And of course, we heard some of their issues too. It was a good conversation. It was a good negotiation. It led to a successful result.
So with China, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has said that, you know, he doesn't want to decouple. He just wants fair trade. But when you look at China and the trust issues, they're our biggest adversary. How can they be our biggest trading partner at the same time?
Well, first of all, what the president has said is clearly we need to rebalance global trade. American workers and American businesses have lost a lot by absorbing all of this trade from other countries when these countries don't take nearly as much from America as we take from them. That's a fundamentally losing proposition, and we're going to change it. And of course, China has been the worst offender. But I think that, look, what has happened right now, the last couple of months, is basically trade between China and the United States has stopped completely. The president has been very clear. He thinks that we have the cards, of course, because we take much more from China than China does from us. But we're going to have a conversation with them. We'll see where it leads. And ultimately, we just want to deal with any country, whether it's China or anybody else, that makes American workers and American businesses in a better position. We just want a fairer deal for American workers, and that's what President Trump is fighting for. I think that it's very achievable with a whole host of countries, but that's the guiding light.
So the president said, you know, maybe American kids should have $3 instead of 30 or whatever the number was. Do you agree? Do you tell the people of this country that you need to make some sacrifices in order to reorganize this bad trade relationship?
Well, I think the president's point here is that, yeah, we do need to become more self-reliant, and that's not going to happen overnight, and it's not always going to be easy, Martha. But what I'd ask people is not whether they want $2 or $5 or $20 for their kids. I'd ask American moms and dads, would you like to be able to go into a pharmacy and know that the drugs your kids need are actually available to you as an American parent? Would you like to, God forbid, if your country goes to a war and your son or daughter is sent off to fight, would you like to know that the weapons that they have are good American-made stuff, not made by a foreign adversary? What President Trump is talking about is bringing self-reliance back to the United States economy. We haven't had it pretty much in my entire life, Martha. We've lost jobs, we've lost supply chain, critical minerals, critical goods have been manufactured by our adversaries. All the president is saying is, wouldn't you like to live in a country that is self-reliant and strong again? And his policies are going to make that happen.
But I guess the question goes back to how much pain, or how do you explain to the American people, look, this is the goal. We think it's a good goal for the country. But getting there, you have the Fed saying, we're not going to cut interest rates at this point, which the president said, you know, he called Jerome Powell a fool on Truth Social last night for that assessment. But Powell is saying we need to make sure that unemployment doesn't go higher and that inflation doesn't go higher. And he's still concerned about those two things. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I think the president's right about Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell, he's a nice guy, but he's been wrong about almost everything. He was way too late in combating the Biden inflation, and now I think he's way too late in actually helping us fight back against some of these ridiculous trade deals that have stolen the wealth of the American people. And so I think Jerome Powell's just wrong about that. But when you ask this question about pain, look, the real pain here, Martha, is that we inherited an economy that had the highest peacetime deficits in United States history. We had $34 trillion in debt and growing under Joe Biden's economy. And the president has been very honest with the American people. You don't get back to peace and prosperity by doing the same thing that you've done under the Biden administration, or frankly, that we've done in this country for 40 years. We've got to take this country in a different direction. We've got to renegotiate some of these trade deals. We've got to open up foreign markets to American-made things, and we've got to make our country more self-reliant. These are long-term big plays. I think they're going to make Americans richer and more prosperous. But yeah, this stuff doesn't happen overnight, as the president has said.
So with regard to the debt, which you just pointed out,
Sure.
some conservative economists look at this one big beautiful bill and they say, gee, that's a lot of debt that is going to be added as a process, as part of this process. What do you say to them?
Well, I'm skeptical of them. I talked to Kevin Hassett, who I think is probably the best conservative economist around. And what these guys underappreciate is that the best way to defeat our debt long term is growth. If we have an economy that's growing at 1% a year, there is no way out of the debt problem in the United States of America. If the economy is growing at 3 or even 4% a year, that is the way that you solve the problem. And so what this tax bill accomplishes fundamentally is it grows the American economy, I think, in the biggest way in a generation. Now, if you go back to the first Trump administration, Martha, you had a lot of economists who said the tax bill is going to lead to a reduction in federal revenue. The tax bill is going to blow up the debt. What actually happened is that revenues went up. And then, of course, until the COVID pandemic and then the presidency of Joe Biden, America's financial house was in much, much better shape than it was under the previous administration. So we know that these guys are skeptical. We know that a lot of them are skeptical of reshoring American manufacturing. We think that they're wrong. We think that we've tried their way of business for 40 years. It's led to high debt. It's led to poorer American citizens. It's led to young people who can't afford to buy a home in their own country. We're not going to do the same old thing that we've done and expect different results. We're going to try the Trump way, and I think it's going to deliver long-term prosperity for the country.
Let me ask you about the improper payments that we've seen, because it feels that Elon Musk is sunsetting out of here, and he says he'll still be paying attention to the Doge issue. But, they found about $160-some billion in cuts, which obviously is great.
Sure.
It's a step in the right direction. But the original promise was $2 trillion, and there is still so much waste out there. So, the fraud that has been found, are we going to see people prosecuted for stealing American taxpayer money through the government?
So first of all, yes, I think that we will, because there's been explicit fraud committed. And I talked to Pam Bondi about this. I know that she's working on building the case against some of these people who have committed absolute fraud on the American people. You're going to see some of those prosecutions over the next few years. But of course, people have their right in court, and Pam Bondi is going to do a real investigation, uncover the facts, and then file a lawsuit if she thinks that the facts warrant it. I think the facts will warrant it for a number of people. But on Elon, look, Elon's not disappearing. And you talked about $160 billion in savings. First of all, that's a lot. And second of all, nobody said that the work of Doge would only last 110 days, and that would be it. We think that there are a lot of fraudulent people claiming Medicaid or Medicare benefits, meaning illegal aliens, people who have no entitlement legally to be on those programs and are stealing from the American citizens who actually do deserve those programs. So we think there's a lot more waste and fraud that we can find. We think we're going to save the American people a lot more money. But look, if we stopped at $160 billion of pure waste and fraud, that would be an unbelievable increase in government efficiency. That's something to be proud of, but we're going to keep on working at it.
All right, last question, because I know you have to go. The president was asked who his successor should be, and he mentioned you, what a fantastic job you're doing, he said. And in the next breath, he mentioned Marco Rubio. So, of course, the latest headline is Trump stokes Vance-Rubio competition. Are you rivals with Marco Rubio?
Not at all. Look, Marco is actually probably my best friend in the administration. We hang out and talk all the time. He's doing a really good job. And, of course, I'm doing the best job that I can. My attitude on this is, Martha, the president's not going to name a successor 110 days into his administration, nor should he. We have to do a good job for the American people. And if we do that, the politics will take care of themselves.
But now that you've been this close for 100 days, can you see yourself in that job?
I can see myself doing a really good job for the next 1,100 days, and then the American people can figure it out from there.
All right, we'll stay tuned.
Great. Shout out to J.D. Vance, who I think a lot of people like. He may be the next star. He definitely may be the next star in the Republican Party. Or Marco Rubio, extremely skillful with his communication. But with that being said, thank you for tuning into the live show. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. Believe in Almighty God, okay? God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to our moderators, C. Shelley, Mr. Busky, Dana, Shout out to Ellie. God bless you for tuning in, Brody. With that being said, man, y'all have a wonderful night. And thank you to the veterans. Shout out to the military guys and women. You guys and women protect the homeland. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. All right, life is hard. Life can be hard, but stay strong. Stay strong, man. Just stay strong. That's all I can tell y'all. Stay strong and stay prayed up. Stay strong and stay prayed up, okay? God is great. God is great. All right. Have a wonderful time.